1, 2, ahora. Buenos días.
Yeah, you are the first, you are the second.
Por favor.
French, Italian. This is for the
Sí.
This is for you. This is the opening remarks of the admiral. He will speak in Spanish. Fantastic.
Continuamos, almirante. Bueno, almirantes, generales, queridos amigos, buenos días a todos. Y lo primero de todo, pues muchas gracias, bienvenidos y muchas gracias por estar aquí en esta tercera jornada del Congreso de Operaciones Anfibias, Historia y Perspectiva, ¿no? Gracias a los que estáis aquí presentes y también gracias a aquellos que nos siguen por Internet, por el canal YouTube de la Armada. I would also like to give special thanks to all the speakers that will be sharing their insights with us through this morning. Thank you for coming. Para esta jornada de perspectiva, pues el Centro de Pensamiento Naval colabora con el Instituto de Historia y Cultura Naval, pues con la idea conjunta que teníamos los dos de, como ya se mencionó, de tratar de unir pasado con futuro. La idea es, si me permiten, ayudarnos de la historia para tratar de, con el ayer, tratar de vislumbrar el mañana, ¿no? Para los que no conozcan el Centro de Pensamiento Naval, el Centro de Pensamiento Naval se creó hace 25 años, en el año 2000, dentro de la Escuela de Guerra Naval, que también fue fundada en el año 1925, luego hace ahora 100 años. Es una de las razones por las que también estamos aquí, ¿no? Estamos de aniversario. Pero lo principal es que hoy estamos haciendo lo que es uno de los cometidos del Centro de Pensamiento Naval, ¿no? Que es planificar, impulsar y desarrollar actividades para promover todo aquello que esté relacionado con el pensamiento naval. entendiendo esto como las ideas, las opiniones, los juicios sobre todo lo que afecta a la Armada en general, es decir, principalmente sobre todo lo que afecta a la mar y sobre todo lo que afecta a la guerra en y desde la mar. Además, el Centro de Pensamiento tiene voluntad de mejorar la perspectiva de la Armada, ¿no? Y entre nuestros objetivos es que las ideas que salgan del centro pues ayuden a la Armada en su actividad. En fin, lo que tratamos es de fomentar el debate, ¿no? El debate sobre temas navales, y además que en este debate no solamente estemos los miembros de las Fuerzas Armadas o de la Armada, sino también incluso personal ajeno a la Armada. Tenemos muchos civiles colaborando con nosotros. Pero además para hacer todo esto, hacemos trabajos que nos puede encargar el Estado Mayor o también seminarios, actividades como estas, que además nuestros colaboradores, todos sus trabajos se difunden a través de los cuadernos de pensamiento naval que tienen ustedes en las páginas de publicaciones del Ministerio de Defensa y que se difunden pues a través de la Revista General de Marina también, con la Revista General de Marina. Bueno, y pasando ya a la jornada de hoy, permitirme, en atención a nuestros invitados, voy a pasar al idioma inglés. Over the past 2 days, we have focused on history, on past of amphibious operation. Against that backdrop, today is our turn to look forward, to engage in prospective analysis, and to attempt to discern what amphibious operation may look like in the future. Or perhaps, more accurately, what the future of naval power projection ashore may be, because this is a broader concept that encompasses amphibious operation. Of course, this is not an easy task, because as someone said, predictions are especially difficult when they concern the future. And I think there are two factors that make forecasting even more difficult today. On the one hand, the starting point, the geopolitical landscape, the strategic situation. I'm not going to extend so much about this, but the famous VUCA, the volatility, uncertainty, ambiguity, complexity. So these are the terms that you use to describe the current environment. But on the other hand, we have the pace of change. Change has been always a characteristic of history. It's nothing new, but nowadays occurring at an unprecedented speed, faster than ever. That's because technology is accelerating everything. So despite the difficult distances, thinking ahead is essential. We need to try to spot the trends and developments that will likely shape future amphibious operation. So that's the way we can steer our navies and our armed forces in the right direction. That is what today is about. And to help us do that, this morning we will be joined by representatives from several allied and friend nations who will share with us their forward-looking perspective on amphibious operation, or if you prefer, naval powered projection ashore. We will conclude the morning with a roundtable discussion with senior military leaders who have kindly agreed to attend this Congress. Thank you, Admiral. Thank you, General, for coming. And the session will be moderated by the Major General José Luis Soto Aguirre. Finally, Spanish CNO, AGEMA, will close the Congress at the end of the morning. Thank you very much for attending, and I hope you will enjoy the day. Muchas gracias de nuevo a todos por su atención y por estar aquí, y espero que disfruten de la jornada. Muchas gracias.
Buenos días a todos. Soy el capitán de navío Gamboa, para aquellos que no me conocen, coordinador del Centro de Pensamiento Naval y encargado de moderar estas sesiones, estas intervenciones. Junto a mí se encuentran los ponentes de la visión de las infanterías de marina de los países que ha mencionado el almirante. Y sin más dilación voy a ir dando entrada uno a uno para que vayan presentando dichas visiones. El primero en intervenir va a ser el capitán de navío Stephen McClory, que es el agregado de defensa del Reino Unido en España. Stephen.
Gracias, presidente. Buenos días. El concepto de ataque litoral, littoral strike, y el programa de la Fuerza de Comando del Futuro, Future Commando Force, datan de 2021-2022 y formaron parte de nuestra revisión integrada de defensa y seguridad. Es el tema de que voy a hablar hoy. Y me complace decir que el autor y el experto del concepto inicial, el general de división Mark Totten, nos acompaña hoy, ha venido desde el Reino Unido para participar en la mesa redonda. Es siempre una muestra de confianza ser invitado a hablar sobre un tema ante la máxima autoridad. Entonces, si hay preguntas más difíciles, pues cederé la palabra al general para contestar durante la mesa redonda. Bueno, resultado de mucho análisis de las amenazas y desafíos presentados por la revolución tecnológica que estamos viviendo actualmente, el concepto de ataque litoral busca ofrecer opciones en cómo emplear fuerzas anfibias en el futuro. Vivimos en un mundo cada vez con más incertidumbre. Ya no tenemos un orden mundial bien definido, con normas aceptadas. Tenemos conflictos en Europa, en Palestina, en el Mar Rojo, y hay tensión alta en el Golfo Pérsico con Irán, en el Indo-Pacífico, con la disputa entre China y Taiwán, todos capaces de convertirse en crisis rápidamente. Y en el resto del mundo vemos competición de parte de una Rusia y China más determinadas. El concepto exige una fuerza que sea usable a lo largo del espectro de conflicto, en las fases de competición, de crisis y de conflicto mismo. Hoy en día las fuerzas anfibias operan de una manera convencional, empleando una doctrina bien conocida y aceptada, aportando influencia eficaz sobre la tierra desde el mar como infantería tradicional. Este modo de operar ha sido exitoso y eficaz, resultando en la especialización y optimización en las funciones tácticas, pero hasta cierto punto reduce las opciones en términos de doctrina táctica. La fuerza comando del futuro necesita ser capaz de crear dilemas para un adversario, como pide el concepto OTAN de disuasión y defensa en el área aeroatlántica. Dispone de dos opciones: operar de una forma más tradicional, como una brigada de infantería ligera, así como una forma menos convencional, en unidades más pequeñas y quizás más ligeras, previsto en el programa de la Fuerza Comando del Futuro, nos brindará mayor flexibilidad estratégica. Sea lo que sea la configuración de la fuerza, tiene que aportar, tanto en la fase de competición como en las fases de crisis y de conflicto. En la fase de competición, como en la actualidad, nuestra prioridad es estar ya desplegado para disuadir a un adversario y confirmar apoyo a aliados y a socios. Esta presencia adelantada nos da las opciones de realizar una gran variedad de actividades: recogida de inteligencia, entrenamiento, familiarización con el entorno, desarrollo de interoperabilidad o seguridad marítima, para fortalecer las relaciones con países amigos. Ya está desplegado a un teatro antes de una crisis, nos permite responder más rápidamente. El concepto prevé el uso de Littoral Response Groups o grupos de respuesta littoral que nos presten opciones. La fuerza tiene que ser expansible y flexible, porque en la fase de crisis valdrá más la concentración de fuerza mayor, fuerza para una intervención limitada para estabilizar, proteger o evacuar a civiles. Bajo el concepto, en esta fase podemos concentrar los grupos de respuesta litoral en un solo grupo mayor llamado un Littoral Strike Group, un grupo de ataque litoral, bajo el mando del general de brigada, que no es solo una fuerza mayor, sino puede ofrecer capacidades adicionales. En conflicto, el concepto habla de la opción de unir todas las capacidades marítimas a ataque litoral con el portaaviones de ala fija en un Expeditionary Strike Group, un grupo expedicionario de ataque, para facilitar acceso al teatro de operaciones, realizar operaciones preliminares antes de la llegada de fuerzas siguientes o apoyar a las operaciones de ataque desde el mar. Con un cambio de amenaza y complejidad que vemos en el lado izquierdo del esquema, el concepto nota la importancia de colaborar con aliados y socios. En el lado derecho se nota los grupos de aliados y amigos que tenemos. Obviamente, la fuerza anfibia combinada del Reino Unido y de los Países Bajos es una colaboración importante dentro de OTAN para nosotros. Pero también la cooperación con otros aliados de OTAN o de la Fuerza Expedicionaria Conjunta, llamada la Joint Expeditionary Force, un grupo de 10 países del norte de Europa, y la Fuerza Expedicionaria Conjunta Combinada, la colaboración anglo-francesa. Nos dan otras opciones, además de una fuerza liderada por los Estados Unidos o bajo mando de OTAN. Operar con socios o aliados nos ofrece un aumento de escala y puede aportar capacidades o sistemas distintos. Es importante que invirtamos en esta interoperabilidad antes de llegar al conflicto. La visión de la fuerza de comando del futuro nos habla de una fuerza adelantada, con buena conectividad, trabajando con los otros departamentos de gobierno y con socios y aliados para competir en el ámbito bajo el umbral del conflicto. Prevemos una fuerza preparada para luchar como un grupo de asalto litoral, alistado para integrar con el portaaviones y explotar sus capacidades para maximizar el impacto. Es una fuerza que puede concentrarse en una crisis para actuar como una brigada ligera anfibia tradicional o desagregarse para tener un efecto en un área más amplia. Tiene que operar de forma desplegada ya en zonas sensibles y al mismo tiempo aportar a la ventaja operacional en el Atlántico Norte. Eso es lo que significa OANA, Operational Advantage in the North Atlantic, nuestra zona más crítica para la defensa del Reino Unido. El Ártico es nuestro flanco norte y continuará siendo de suma importancia para nosotros. La visión de la Fuerza Comando prevé operaciones en equipos pequeños también, de 12 personas, para ser más discreto y menos detectable. Prevé un despliegue de varios equipos para actuar como una fuerza avanzada, no solamente una tarea de fuerzas especiales, guiando y dirigiendo los fuegos de unidades más lejanas, misiles de largo alcance o F-35, tener esa capacidad dentro de más unidades, no solamente fuerzas especiales, para contrarrestar sistemas de antiacceso y negación a una área. Realizan su inserción desde el mar en el vehículo más adecuado, buscando tener un impacto inicial sobre el espacio marítimo y litoral, usando el asalto o incursión estilo comando o commando raid. El propósito es ofrecerle a OTAN una opción menos convencional que se puede emplear para abrir la puerta para otra fuerza de la alianza o crear dilemas al adversario, sin perder la capacidad de operar como una fuerza anfibia a nivel de brigada. Ya hemos iniciado esta reconfiguración para satisfacer la propuesta central. Los dos grupos de respuesta littoral están configurados y desplegados, uno en el norte, en la zona de OTAN, y otro en el sur, al este de Suez. La decisión sobre dónde enviar los grupos se alinea a las prioridades estratégicas del Reino Unido en el momento, y si la prioridad cambia, el grupo se dirige al destino deseado. Como los buques son auxiliares, ya suelen rotar la tripulación cada mes, lo que simplifica un despliegue extendido de años. Usando transporte aéreo podemos rotar, aumentar o reducir la fuerza de comandos embarcado sin volver a un puerto base. Nos permite sostener la presencia avanzada continua, lista para responder más rápidamente en caso de una crisis o amenaza emergente. La cooperación e interacción con aliados y socios locales de una manera constante o regular facilitan la participación en ejercicios que a la vez apoyan el desarrollo de la interoperabilidad de capacidades. Dados los avances tecnológicos que vemos en el ámbito de comunicaciones, la gestión de información, proponemos obtener ventaja operacional empleando mando y control desagregado de la fuerza para ser más resiliente y tener más impacto en una área más extendida. Invertiremos en sistemas autónomos y no tripulados. Hemos adquirido nuevos sistemas de SIS para coordinar actividad usando una nube segura y resiliente. ¿Pero dónde estamos ahora? Bueno, el cuartel general de 3 Commando Brigade ahora se conoce como el cuartel general de las fuerzas comando del Reino Unido. Este cambio demuestra el cambio de responsabilidades. Mantendrá las competencias y capacidades de mandar una fuerza anfibia convencional, pero también ahora se responsabiliza para el desarrollo de la fuerza comando y generar las capacidades de mando y control para las operaciones desagregadas. Los 3 batallones de infantería ligera, las unidades comando, ya están desempeñando sus nuevas tareas. Los comandos 45 y 40 tienen elementos desplegados en los grupos de respuesta littoral en el norte y el sur, respectivamente. El comando 42 ahora tiene las tareas de seguridad marítima desplegada en unidades de la flota, como la fuerza de protección aquí. Pero también se está desarrollando para ser una unidad de apoyo a las fuerzas especiales. Y cuando el Reino Unido asume la responsabilidad para el mando del componente de fuerzas especiales de la Fuerza de Respuesta de la Alianza, la ARF, formará parte de este grupo. La Fuerza de Comando seguirá siendo la unidad especialista del Reino Unido en la guerra polar para operaciones en el Ártico. Los escuadrones de helicópteros han sido renovados en los últimos años y como las otras unidades comando, el regimiento de logístico, el comando 30, el grupo de explotación de información y las unidades de ingenieros y artillería del ejército, bajo mando de la infantería de marina, solo su manera de desplegar en grupos pequeños quizás para apoyar el modelo desagregado está previsto a cambiar. Con respecto a los buques anfibios, ya hemos retirado los 2 buques de asalto Albion y Bulwark, que fue el mes pasado. Estamos aceptando un riesgo de no tener esa capacidad a corto plazo. La idea es ahorrar dinero para invertir y adelantar la adquisición de nuevas capacidades más temprano. Es un riesgo que hemos tolerado antes con la adquisición de los portaaviones. El objetivo es adquirir el nuevo Multi-Role Strike Ship, buque de ataque multipropósito. Esta nueva clase reemplazará los 3 tipos distintos de buque anfibio que tenemos, el LPD, el LSDA y el buque hospital, y por supuesto el LPH que ya no tenemos. Esperamos que la revisión estratégica de defensa de 2025 iba a salir este mes, pero todavía hay que esperar un poco, entonces saldrá en los próximos meses, no tengo fecha. Esperamos que confirme el horario y la cantidad de buques Queremos 6 al mínimo. Hemos visto en Ucrania y en el Mar Rojo que un combatiente puede concentrar sus fuegos, empleando drones, municiones convencionales lanzadas por artillería o aviones de caza, así como misiles de largo alcance, balísticos o hipersónicos, todos a la vez para saturar defensas aéreas. Puede usar este método para negar acceso a la costa, el antiacceso y negación a un área. Tenemos que investigar métodos de inserción desde distancias más largas, empleando vehículos de bajo perfil para salvaguardar, exponer nuestros buques anfibios a mayor riesgo. El empleo de mando y control desagregado delegará más responsabilidad a niveles inferiores. Dependerá de una nube de combate robusto y tropas más calificados y experimentados con tecnología de punta. Ya estamos invirtiendo en drones y sistemas no tripulados porque nos darán una ventaja tecnológica. Pero la tecnología sigue avanzando. Hemos iniciado la transformación de la fuerza de comandos para el futuro, para realizar el concepto de ataque litoral. El propósito es estar preparado para contrastar la amenaza actual en las fases de competición, crisis y conflicto. La capacidad anfibia tradicional del ATP-8 sigue viva, pero tenemos que adaptar para enfrentar a los retos futuros, empleando mando y control desagregados con fuerzas quizás desconcentradas, sobre todo durante la fase de competencia. Buscaremos adquirir más capacidades autónomas para obtener ventaja en operaciones. Los grupos de respuesta litoral nos permiten estar presentes en las zonas más importantes estratégicamente, desarrollando interoperabilidad y disuadiendo a adversarios. Estos despliegues sostenidos nos ofrecen una plataforma para experimentación y evolución de capacidades marítimas y terrestres en zonas de conflicto posible. Podemos continuar esta transformación actual sin impacto sobre nuestro ritmo de operaciones, pero siempre hay más que hacer. Estamos pendientes de los resultados de la revisión estratégica de defensa de 2025 y esperamos ver una mayor inversión en nuevas capacidades y buques. El concepto de ataque litoral, junto con el programa de la Fuerza Futura de Comandos, nos ofrece opciones, que es lo que quieren los políticos en tiempos de crisis y conflicto. Muchas gracias por su atención.
A continuación, el brigadier general Moerman, comandante de la Infantería Marina de los Países Bajos, presentará la visión de los Países Bajos.
Buenos días, almirantes, generales, damas, caballeros. Espero me permitan continuar mi presentación en inglés porque ya habrán escuchado que mi español no es muy bueno. Thank you. In the next 20 minutes, I will give you a brief update on the transition that we are heading with the Netherlands Marine Corps. And I don't want to insult your intelligence with the first slide, and the Admiral already mentioned it this morning, but we live in a volatile world with a lot of changes, a shifting power balance in the world, and we see a need that we need to change as a military, Dutch military, but I think as a Western military, from a focus on wars of choice, what we did the last 25, 30 years, crisis response operations, and we need to shift to wars of necessity. So that means a major change for our military. We're also looking at different opponents that are now our peer opponents that we need to prepare for. And we see that we are vulnerable for new technical developments. that are increasingly fast developing. So we have a certain urgency to change as the Marine Corps. And that's what I want to express with this slide. And we didn't start yesterday. So already after 2014, when we saw the Russian Federation action in Crimea, we started to think about a new concept of operations for the Dutch Marine Corps. And we started the program we called Mastering the Littoral, which was founded by our Admiralty Board and said, okay, look towards your new way of operating in the littoral. And in 2017, we published a new concept, the Future Littoral Operating Concept, that you see here on the left, which basically defined how we think we need to operate, trying to predict the future, how we think we need to operate as an amphibious capability in the littoral operations. And this is basically the process you see on this slide that we are going through. So we started with concept development, then we did our version of force design. We looked at all the aspects. What does our doctrine need to look like? What does our organization need to look like? What weapon systems, what equipment do we need? How does that impact our training and education of young Marines, young sailors, all the way to the facilities and infrastructure and communication equipment? So that was the force design phase. And now actually 2025, we start to force build. So next month is when we will start our main reorganization of our Marine Corps units into our new formations. And then, but it's a continuing process. We also looked ahead towards 2035 because we have to keep evolving both our doctrine, our organization, and our weapon systems and equipment. So now in the center, 2025, and starting the force building. And along this process, which has been a long process, we try to stay aligned with our main partners. So with the UK, looking at how we need to develop our concept and develop our doctrine, and also looking at the force design that the USMC is going through at a different scale, different level, but elements of that are very important because we need to remain interoperable in the theaters where we operate together. So we try to stay aligned as much as possible. And the same is also what we try to do within NATO. So at the NILS Delivery Board, where we come together with the amphibious leadership within NATO, we try to stay aligned. And recently we adopted a new vision that basically depicts that in the future we will have 3 types of amphibious capabilities within NATO. The traditional, conventional amphibious expeditionary units, the coastal defense units that you more see in Sweden and Finland, operating with the land to their rear and doing coastal defense. And a new version is the advanced amphibious forces that, especially as UK now, we're looking towards the direction that we are heading towards. And the good thing is, because we started thinking early, when we had our budget increases in the Netherlands, which started with the white paper or the strategic defense review in 2022, when we had a huge increase and another one in 2024, we already had a plan. So we were able to have a lot of the, especially equipment, replacement of equipment, but also new weapon systems. We can put it in the review. So a lot of the equipment is now funded. So now it's only a matter of getting it through the acquisition process. So we're looking at new weapon systems, replacing old weapon systems. We're going to replace all our landing craft within the Marine Corps. We're going to go from new amphibious transport ships in the early 30s. We're replacing all our vehicles. We're moving away from armor and moving to light mobility. So everything's going to be light and unarmored. And we are replacing all our communication equipment. And all that with a focus, as you see on the regional plan Northwest, on the High North, because that's where our roots are, and that's we are used to operating in the extreme environments in the High North, Arctic, mountain. So that's where our main focus is, and that's also where we put in a bid for amphibious capability to NATO in the new NATO force model. And as I said, now at the start line, basically, to start our transformation next month is where we really start to change our organization. The key characteristics for the new Dutch Marine Corps. Our full focus is, we're going to be optimized for war fighting. So focus on wars of necessity, and we'll have to do all the other operations that will keep continuing to happen, humanitarian aid and disaster relief, operations like that, but we do it with a war-fighting organization. Our readiness has to go up. Yeah, we are very used now, after 25 years of crisis response operations, that next year I'm going to deploy to Iraq, Afghanistan, so we're going to do a workup phase, and then we do a certification exercise, and we're going to do that mission 4 months, 6 months, and after that we start our cycle all over again. We don't have time for that in the current phase we're in the world. All units need to be ready. So we have a complete overhaul of our whole training and readiness continuum that is aimed at having all Marine Corps units ready all the time. So that's a major change. I think that's the toughest nut to crack in our whole transition to a new organization. We'll keep a worldwide focus. Our motto as the Dutch Marine Corps is Qua Patet Orbis, as far as the world extends. But as a maritime nation, we have a worldwide focus. Safety for Europe doesn't start at the boundaries of Europe. We have worldwide interest. So we also keep a focus worldwide, despite having our main focus on Regional Plan Northwest and the High North. So we continue operations in the Pacific, small scale, both with Navy ships and with Marine Corps units. And of course, we have a responsibility also in the Caribbean, where we have several islands that are part of the Dutch Kingdom. And we have to defend those islands too if needed. So we have a worldwide focus. We'll focus on the extreme environments, because that's where we're good at, we think. So we have a focus on Arctic, mountain and jungle warfare. And like I said, we will move towards a advanced amphibious force, because we see a gap there, because special forces are moving to the right of the spectrum, and we don't have any special forces anymore who will do the advanced phase of an amphibious operation. So that gap is where we will step into. That means, except from our soft Tier 1 maritime forces that are part of the Dutch Marine Corps, the rest of the Marine Corps will become special operations capable. So soft Tier 2 type. And another aspect that we keep looking at is what we call the scalable warrior. Technology offers us a lot, and we're going to use that technology, but we also have to be aware that we cannot always use that technology if you're in a tech-degraded environment. Maybe you cannot trust your GPS signal, or maybe your signal is spoofed. So we need still to train our Marines to operate without the high-tech and operate in a low-tech setting. So that's what we try to keep in the back of our mind. And the intent is to to keep up that strategic utility that we have as a maritime force, not just as the Marine Corps, but as a Navy as a whole. Because we have strategic mobility, we can gain access to areas. We can offer a maritime presence for politicians, if we're not fully engaged yet in a conflict. And we can always create a dilemma for the enemy. So we need to maintain that strategic utility. And like I said, although we focus on the offensive side, on war fighting, we still look at operations across the range of military operations. So all the way from competition to crisis to conflict. And we want to offer scalable options that you see below. We always have a unit, the Marine Spare Task Units, at 48 hours notice to move, so rapidly deployable. And that unit, for instance, deployed within 24 hours in 2023 when we did the evacuation in Sudan. So within 24 hours, they were out of the door and started the NEO operation. So we want to offer scalable options to both the Dutch government, but also to our multinational corporations. So be it NATO, the Joint Expeditionary Force with the Nordic countries, or any coalition of the willing. And there's several ways we can do that you see at the bottom of the slide. Our concept of employment, and we scaled it down to several mission profiles that you see at the bottom of the slide to give us focus on the missions that we need to put in our training and readiness continuum. The design drivers for our Marine Corps are on the left side, and that's a mission profile we call Shape to Enable. So that's the advanced operations for an amphibious operation, with a focus on Regional Plan Northwest. And that's also where we do the cooperation with the UKNL again. 2 years ago we celebrated our 50th anniversary. The cooperation started in 1973 in the Cold War. And we keep it up to date. So the intent is to provide a UKNL amphibious task force for NATO for Regional Plan Northwest. And we're currently in cooperation with USMC, with the Royal Marines and Norway, and onto how to fine-tune those plans for Regional Plan Northwest. Another one is maritime special operations. When we have battalions that are special operations capable, we can also provide a special operational maritime task group for NATO, with hopefully a focus also on the Northwest. And then the other mission profiles are all the other operations we still need to be able to do on the continuum. Intervene and contain is focused on crisis response operations, counterinsurgency if needed, or peace support operations. Last year we still did a mission on the Balkans, the Operation Althea for the European Union. So the operations like that will keep continuing. Routine action is what we mean with providing maritime interdiction, counter-piracy, counter-drugs operations that we do in the Caribbean. We provide the boarding teams for our Navy ships in that area, but also humanitarian assistance, disaster relief operations, evacuation operations, and designated soft support to our Tier 1 Special Forces that we provide from our Marine Corps battalions. And the other mission profile is stand-in forces. Like I said, we have a couple of islands that are part of the Dutch Kingdom in the Caribbean, and we need to be able to provide deterrence and defense for those islands because of the close proximity to Venezuela. And we know, if tensions go up in Europe, it's very likely that we'll also have proxy conflicts throughout the world, and Venezuela might be one of them. So we're especially looking at the stand-in forces concept also of the USMC, and how can we provide air defense and sea denial in that area. The intention is not to go into the org chart, so don't look too much at that, but it's just to see where we are going from our current battalions on the left side to the new battalions on the right side. So we're moving away from the regular expeditionary amphibious forces towards specialized amphibious forces. We're moving away from heavy vehicles and a heavy footprint on land, logistical footprint, to a light footprint and basically no logistic echelons on land. So logistics are going to be run from the sea base, and the small teams that we deploy forward have to be self-supporting at least for 7 days in order to minimize that logistical footprint. So it's a totally different way of operating ashore. The battalions are going to change from now 725 Marines to roughly 320 Marines in a new organization. But that allows us also to create additional battalions. So we have 2 larger battalions now. We're going to move to 3 Marine combat groups in the future. And like I said, the mission sets change from close in and destroy the enemy to advanced force operations, basically enabling follow-on forces within the NATO plan. And that all has to be scalable and task organized. So we're looking at different sets, and when we deploy, the battalion, the Marine Combat Group, will be have also littoral maneuver elements allocated to it. So our landing craft will be attached to the battalion, and also our naval aviation. That's part of the Joint Helicopter Command in the Netherlands. Will also be a part of the task organized Marine Combat Group that is able to deploy. And on the right, you see some examples of equipment that we're either going to replace or that's going to be new into the Marine Corps. In conclusion, we are at the start line of a major transition for the Marine Corps. It's not the first time. I've been in the Marine Corps now for almost 30 years, and we went through 4 major transformations. But I have to say this is the one we prepared the best. We did a lot of thinking. We went through all the .MLPFI factors to make the plan as good as possible. So I'm full of confidence that the transition will be good. And hopefully, we did some prediction well, and with our concept of operations, it will be future-proof, operating more dispersed with smaller units, which are very capable. I forgot to mention that each small strike team is now basically a combined armed unit with different weapon systems that used to be somewhere else in the organization normally, and each strike team will have a forward observation capability, so they can either direct aircraft, direct artillery, direct naval gunfire support. So it will be very capable small teams that can operate dispersed in a wide area. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, sir. Now it's time for France. General Hervé Pierre, former comandante de la Brigada de Infantería de Marina francesa, tiene la palabra. General, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Buenos días, muchas gracias por la invitación. Unfortunately, I will continue this briefing in English, especially because I don't have the opportunity to speak Spanish on a day-to-day basis. But so I will do it in English. Obviously, I can do it in French if you prefer, but I guess you will understand it better in English. I'm very pleased to be here this morning for two main reasons. The first one is that I'm the former commander of 9 BIMA, which is the amphibious, one of the amphibious brigade, French Marines brigade in France. But the second point is that I'm also a researcher in strategic studies. I wrote a PhD on André Beaufre thinking, and I'm very interested in the way we can develop, make evolving our strategic thinking. So it's for these two reasons, I'm very pleased to be here this morning. Unfortunately, I'm not anymore the commanding officer of this brigade. It was time for me to do something else, and now I'm serving at the Ministry of Defense Cabinet as the head of the General Office of the Cabinet. So thank you very much for inviting me. I will try in this 20 minutes max briefing to focus on three main points. The first one is just to tell you what are the French Marines, because our organization is very specific. So I spent almost 30 years in the Marines, from recon platoon leader to brigade commander, and I had the opportunity to be embedded in 3 commando brigades several times, and to spend 1 year in Quantico within the US Marines. So the Marines environment is something very familiar to me. What is not familiar to you is the way we are organized, because I'm French Marines, but the French Marines belong to the Army. We turned from Navy to Army at the beginning of the 19th century, when the French Marines became the colonial army. But in the 19th century, the French Marines were part of the Navy as fusilleros, and they became a colonial army from 1900 to 1958. And you can understand that with the end of the Algerian War, we turned back to the original name, but we stayed in the army. So we've got this very specific organization that is the amphibious force. The main body of the amphibious force is in the army. And you've got here on the slide the task organization of the French army. We've got 2 Scorpion divisions, and Scorpion will be the second focus on my briefing, because this is really the way we think the fight for the future. So we'll speak a little bit about Scorpion, but within this task organization of the French army, you've got 2 Scorpion divisions, and within each of these divisions, you've got 1 amphibious brigade. So I was the former commander of 9 Brigade. This is the brigade in blue. And there is another brigade that is dedicated to amphibious operation, that is the French Royal Legion Brigade, that is also an amphibious brigade. So in the French army, we've got 2 brigades, with army aviation, of course, with navy means, and with headquarters in Toulon, which is the connection between navy and army for all amphibious affairs. What is a 9 brigade? It is a brigade that is located in the western part of France. It's almost 8,000 strengths, and we've got 3 infantry battalion, 2 armored battalion, 1 RT battalion, and 1 engineer battalion, plus 1 battalion that is located in Djibouti. It is in Djibouti all the time, and it is very interesting for us to make training, of course, but also for intervention. And what does not is on the slide is that we develop the recon part of the brigade with a company-sized commando force that is dedicated to pre-landing forces. So this is a slide that gives you some clues about the way we are organized. And we participated in a lot of exercises last years. You've got them on the slide. The point that is really to understand is that in the French doctrine, the way of intervening on a theater is the way to find entry points from a peripheral perspective. That is to say, how you can use an amphibious force to entry a theater in high intensity situation. That is a point that is very important, because for us, we try to find a sort of intermediate solution between the amphibious legacy and the mass, and between the other aspect that is agile amphibious. So we don't put all the efforts in the direction of agility, and we developed our commando force recon, marine recon, but at the same time we try to think the way we will be committed into a high intensity fight on the coastal area or within the land. So it's a kind of mix between amphibious and air-land battle, and it is why the way we are thinking the organization and the doctrine of our brigades, I think, is quite interesting. So my second point is to focus on Scorpion system. What is Scorpion? Scorpion is equipments, of course, of the brigade. So you've got some main battle tanks, you've got some vehicles. But what makes Scorpion different from the original or the other equipment is what you see on the screen. It is the fact that using computing, telecommunication, artificial intelligence, we are able to connect every vehicle and to make the fight more flexible, more agile, with a very point that is what the focusing point of our development is, trying to increase the speed ratio and to be able, and it was said in another presentation, to be able to aggregate and disaggregate very quickly. It is to say, to concentrate the forces and to disseminate the forces very quickly, for two main reasons, and it is why I'm focusing on this Scorpion system. The first thing is agility, and I take a quote from both. He wrote a book in 1972 called Strategy for Tomorrow, and he said, agility is the combination of mobility and the capacities to react. And the fact is the Scorpion system gives us this ability to be very quick in taking decisions and the mobility on the ground. And the first consequence is that we are able to disseminate the forces when they could be strike, and at the same time we can concentrate then when we need to do that. The fact is, if you apply that to the amphibious assault and the amphibious constraint on the coastal area, it gives you the opportunity to disseminate much more the points of entries in the coastal area, rather than concentrate on a single place where you have to join the land. So the first main gain of Scorpion is this agility, and the second one is obviously resilience, because we have with this system the opportunity to disaggregate the CPs from the part that is aboard ship, from the part that is on land. It is also an ability to disaggregate the CPs on the ground, to be able to make them survive is a very, very lethal configuration. So I took some examples we experienced 1 year ago, that is to say, to make the CPs change, structure of the CPs change, depending on the phases of the operation, depending on the phases of the situation. So make the CP flexible and adaptive from sea to shore. So we are working a lot this Scorpion system that is part of the Army doctrine with a Navy to make it converge during our training and operations. Then I will try to focus on a third point, that is, what are the main areas of effort, or the main development we are trying to deepen now in the amphibious perspective. The first one is trying to develop more agile course of actions. And you've got on this slide some things you have probably noticed in the previous presentation, that is to give to the very small tactical units the ability to be multi-domain and multi-scale. That is to say, try not to be fixed on the shore and try to find ways to disseminate on the coastal area and try to take some very important point, especially to be able to deny the access and to be able to protect some specific access. So the first thing is that our units, even if they are not all commando units, they are very, very skilled and trained to be able to integrate at a platoon or company level some multi-domain aspects that were not part of our fight 5 or 10 years ago. The second point is that, so you've got on this slide several examples of courses of actions that we can develop. The second thing is we trying to work a lot what we call a deep penetration from blue to gray. That is to say that inside the brigade, I'm not only working the amphibious traditional aspect of the assault, ship to shore, ship to objective, but we've got units that are dedicated to riverine operation and that are able to use rivers to enter into the territory and to prepare the actions of the main body. So this aspect of blue to gray is one of the main axes of effort of the brigade today. So if I want to summarize what are the main evolutions that we are trying to make happen, the first thing is to adapt the amphibious operation to high-intensity warfare. I try to explain in this presentation that there is something very attractive to speak about agile amphibious assault and to have only recon making the point on the shore, but what is going on after when you have to do the big one on the land. And the fact is you need to have robust units that are able to continue the fight and to be able to have logistical support in the long perspective. So we try to think how we can take some very specific points on the coast that give us the opportunity and the superiority, initial superiority for the main body to begin the fight. So you have this example, of course, of NT-A2 AD. Develop maritime littoral as well as riverine, as I said before. So this is something that we are working a lot. And these doctrinal trends leads us to develop some capabilities. So obviously, but I think this is not something very new for you, but the increasing the use of UAVs, every sort of UAVs, land UAVs, maritime UAVs, air UAVs, of course, for a large, wide range of missions. And given to these tactical units a lot of capabilities that give us the opportunity to take these very specific points. Another aspect that is something probably strange for you is that we are equipped with army equipment. So we are now Army is considering acquiring specific amphibious assault vehicles that we didn't have anymore at that time. So we think that to have a large scale of capabilities, I said that we have to think the model from agile to mass and to very traditional capacities. And in between, we need these units of amphibious assault vehicle, probably 2 squadrons of amphibious assault vehicle per brigade. That is to say, we will have these group commando amphibie, these assault unit, recon units, then the ability to take the shore with amphibious assault vehicles, and the main body that is made of Scorpion system, because these brigades I described, 9 Brigade and 6 Brigade, that is the French Royal Legion Brigade, they could be used either as an amphibious force or embedded into an army division for a main land battle. So we have to mix these capacities. We've got a lot of training events that are in front of us, and I know that some of you will participate in these kind of events, and we think that even if this amphibious, we think that the amphibious capability is really absolutely crucial today to make and to have the possibility to join certain point of access in theaters of operation that are in high intensity configuration, but that will be not possible without allies. That is to say, when I was speaking about the mass, it is not the mass in itself, but it is the mass within a global coalition, within a global strike force that is stronger, that is stronger than the brigades I described this. If we take the example of the preparation we had 2 years ago to be able to be deployed in the Eastern Front if it was necessary, we were able to send 2 brigades at the same moment. The 2 brigades is not a division, and we can observe, we can notice with all the fights that are going on in the eastern part, in the Eastern Front, that we will need a lot of units and a regeneration of units to be able to face in a long time this kind of operation. That is to say that amphibious access is absolutely crucial to be able to find vulnerabilities and entry points, but that is to say that we need mass also to push further and to be able to exploit this initial entry. And this mass will be only given by the use of all the units from the Allies. We don't have enough strength to do it by ourselves, obviously. But I think we really have to think together these two main aspects, agility and mass. If we connect this agility and mass with what I said about the necessity to concentrate and to disseminate, I just have to finish with this slide because I will publish in a few weeks some books about General Wolf. I think we have to read again General Wolf. He has been translated in many languages, of course English, but also Spanish, Portuguese. Even in Chinese, you can find an introduction to strategy in Chinese. But you will find not an introduction to strategy, but you will find in strategy tomorrow a description of what both call navalization of air and battle. And navalization of air and battle is the way we are using the ability to concentrate and deconcentrate, to disseminate in a high-intensity warfare environment, especially in Eastern Europe, using some clues, some techniques, some ways of thinking that are very close to the way Navy is acting and very close to the way amphibious forces are acting. So we have something also to add, we have something to give to the global thinking about the way of fighting in air-land battle area in a high-intensity fight. Thank you very much for your attention.
Gracias, general. Es el turno de Italia con el capitán de navío Tulumelo, que es el jefe de preparación de la Fuerza Anfibia italiana.
Admiral, gentlemen, good morning. First of all, let me say that it is an honor for me and a privilege to be here today representing Italy and contributing to this very interesting discussion that we have to do more often. Through this presentation, I will share some perspective and consideration on the future of Amphibious operation from an Italian point of view. This is the agenda I will follow. The presentation is divided into 3 parts. In the first part is a brief overview of the operational context in which we, the Italian Navy, in which we are involved. In the second part, we will see some idea and consideration on how to evolve amphibious forces to meet the future challenge. Finally, in the third part, we will take a quick look at the major new Italian development program specifically focused on the amphibious area. Currently, Italian Navy strategic concept of employment is focused on the so-called wider Mediterranean, a combination of a geopolitical concept and geostrategic vision centered around this country. The wider Mediterranean spans over 3 different continents, Africa, Asia, and Europe, going from the Gulf of Guinea westward to the Indian Ocean eastward, and including, of course, the high north. In this area, various emerging countries and powers are keen to exploit vital sea line of communication. The Mediterranean Sea represents for us a main sea line of communication between 2 oceans, the Indian and the Atlantic, connecting the east and the west. Mediterranean Sea is indeed an authentic sea between the oceans, no longer just a basin nested between Europe, the Africa, and the Middle East. It has become a vital waterway linking 2 distinct sections of the world ocean. It is home of 5 choke points critical to global maritime trade and represent a complex and crucial space where multiple areas of instability and long-standing conflict are further exacerbated by the proliferation of new crises and modern threats ranging from the asymmetric to the advanced and conventional forces with anti-access denial system. A deep analysis of the Mediterranean Sea in number revealed that despite the fact that it represents only the 1% of the world's water surface, 25% of maritime traffic directed to Europe passed through it. And 75% of this flow is an energetic traffic. Additionally, 35% of the worldwide crude oil passed through it. Overall, indeed, the Mediterranean emerged as a strategic strait squeezed between 2 oceans, where diversity and complexity create space for current and future area of instability and contested environment. In this complex environment, it is clear that the protection of national and coalition interests must be supported by a robust and effective maritime and amphibious capability. The international focus on this is evident, and we are a proof of that. It is indeed clear that control and the free use of the sea are crucial for sustaining essential strong relationship and cooperation with international actors we have. As well as it's clear that maritime and amphibious force are essential enabler for any kind of power projection effort, whatever it will be, maritime or sea-based. And amphibious force, of course, are a core component, an integral part of any strategy of power projection or projection of interest, of course. However, this amphibious capability must evolve to become more flexible and effective than it is today. It should expand in quantity and in quality. Adaptive, scalable, and effective should be our guiding principle. With that in mind, let's take a look at some idea and consideration regarding the evolution of amphibious forces. Evolving maritime and amphibious forces to face new contested scenario is certainly not an easy challenge. It requires for us an holistic approach that encompasses doctrine, organization, training, material, education, personnel. And more important, it is really, really important, the engagement of the Navy as a whole. Some main element of this 360-degree evolution can be framed in two main pillars of transformation: a new approach and a mindset to operational towards distributed operation, and a state-of-the-art technology with a new instrument required for the power projection. Of course, anti-HSR denial system, as well as the low cost of electronic warfare and intelligence surveillance system, required innovative approaches to operation, such as the distributed amphibious operation. But distributed amphibious operation have not to be seen as a mean to face a peer-to-peer enemy capability, but also as an instrument to create new opportunity for us in operation by leveraging the significant tactical and operational advantages they offer. As we develop future capability, several key concepts and capabilities should be emphasized: tactical state approach, naval and deep strike capability, and extended standoff range for sure will be essential. But also a force dispersion approach combined with concentration of force at the right time will maximize effect while minimize vulnerability and uncertainty. Emphasis should be placed on the combat autonomy of increasingly smaller units. This means focusing on the ability to generate decisive effect even in smaller level, such as platoon or even smaller. However, we do believe that mass and concentration will still remain decisive in combat in the future. Last but not least, let me mention the needs of an advanced situational awareness with the use of artificial intelligence and real-time data sharing, as well as the capacity to share huge amount of data, will make the difference in the battlefield. However, there should be no doubt that decentralized decision-making in an effective application of a mission command will be decisive when facing a peer-to-peer adversary. The second pillar is the technology. Future amphibious operation for sure will rely on advanced technology, including autonomous vehicle, unmanned system, and precision guided weapon. But while these technologies enhancements are essential, they must not come at the expense of the ability to operate in technologically degraded environment, such as those with disrupted electromagnetic spectrum, and they must not come at the cost of losing the ability to use low-tech combat tactic, technique, and procedure. This form of warfare, often considered outdated and obsolete, cannot be dismissed or abandoned. As we evolve towards distributed amphibious operation, C4ISR for sure will likely be the most difficult function to sustain. Issues such as flow, bandwidth limitation, doctrinal gap, geographical dispersion, and a limited number of available C2 nodes and channel of maritime environment are already weak points today. And they will become even more critical in the future, where the quantity and the quality of information, as well as the speed of our OODA loop, the speed of our decision-making relative to that of the enemy, will be a decisive factor between winning and losing. In this regard, mission command and a disciplined information management will be a key factor. Other critical requirements will be a robust and scalable fire support capability, ranging from precision-guided ammunition to the naval deep strike system, and of course, the availability, the quantity of this support will be essential. Lastly, looking at the maneuver, building a flexible shipping capability, choosing the right platform that permit maneuver and power projection with the ability to insert from small, agile forces to mass concentration is a challenge stuff. Probably there is no single solution, and it will remain a matter of compromise for any country, of course. Let me conclude with the last third part, a brief look at some Italian initiative and development in the field of amphibious operation. In terms of future capability, the Italian Navy launched a modernization process aimed to achieve technological advancement to expand the shipping and landing platform capability, enabling the execution of the full spectrum of amphibious operation from platoon level to the brigades level landing force. Just let me mention on the shipping side, on the left, the entry into service of the first LHD in 2024. This platform is F-35 capable, equipped with a robust C2 capability to support the CATAF and CLF, and designed to accommodate up to 600 Marines. But the Navy power projection capability will be further enhanced by the planned replacement of the current 3 LPD with 4 bigger LXD, along with the introduction of a second LHD in the midterms. Additionally, let me mention also the multipurpose combat ship able to transport and project a platoon-sized unit using its 5 riding craft, which will contribute to the flexibility of the fleet. On the landing force side, on the right, modernization efforts are focused on the multiple programs ranging from unmanned system to the measure and system for digitalizing the battle space. But looking specifically to the platform, the acquisition of 64 amphibious combat vehicles in various configurations, primarily troop carrier and combat, will improve operational effectiveness on the field. Complement this effort, the procurement of new surface connector, including combat boats for platoon level and reconnaissance insertion, and a new region riding craft. But facing future challenge, it is not only a matter of national enhancement. Given the complexity of creating and sustaining credible amphibious forces, Italy firmly believes in the joint and combined spirit of the operation. In this regard, partnership should not be seen only through NATO and EU cooperation, but also through the fostering of long-term bilateral relationship, such as the one we have with our fellow Spanish sailors and Marines in the Sea of Sylph framework, with whom we share deep level of integration, cooperation, and most important, mutual trust. At the national level, Italy is also committed to the potential generation of a robust joint brigade-sized landing force through a basket of capability and enabler provided by the Italian Army. Basically, while the CATAF and the maritime construct are always generated by the Italian Navy, the landing force can have a single service or a joint structure, generating on this last a brigade-sized landing force. As part of the innovation effort, in terms of operational mindset, since 2023, we are also experimenting the littoral expeditionary group. It's a new concept of employment of the Italian Navy amphibious unit, composed of an amphibious ship, escort, logistic unit, and a mission-tailored landing force, normally a company size. The aim is to enhance capability and readiness of smaller units to protect national interest at high tempo, of course independently or inserted in a multinational amphibious task force. In our opinion, the Littoral Expeditionary Group will drive the evolution of the Italian landing force organization and tactics, enabling the Navy to operate in a smaller, agile unit. It represents, in other words, a way to stress and reinforce our operational posture and amphibious capability. Finally, let me complete with the analysis vision. I would like to underline that the Italian Navy, the Italian Amphibious Task Force, is expeditionary by nature. It is oriented towards a sea-based, fully scalable, flexible, and highly maneuverable force, trained and equipped to perform a full spectrum of amphibious operation, with the aim to play enabling roles as far as being an instrument of projection of force, able to contribute to the generation of effect in a joint and a combined campaign. However, we place strong emphasis, we pay great attention on some specific capability delivered by specialized advanced amphibious force and coastal amphibious force. Admiral, ladies and gentlemen, that brings me to the end of this presentation. Thank you very, very much for the attention.
Muchas gracias. Vamos un poquito adelantados y abusando de la amabilidad de los ponentes. Ofrezco 15 minutos de preguntas. Si alguien tiene alguna pregunta que hacerle a los ponentes que están en la mesa, por favor, la pregunta, si es en inglés, mejor. Si no, la tendré que traducir. No soy traductor.
Voy a hacer en castellano la pregunta,
Venga.
pero va a ser corta para que la respondan. El sentido de mi pregunta va referido a la guerra submarina, que yo creo que es importante hoy en día con el sistema de drones y submarinos nucleares que existen y que pueden dar al traste con las operaciones anfibias. En este sentido, el ejército está evolucionando y va investigando en las comunicaciones, transmisiones a través del aire y a través del agua con método de despistar al enemigo, de distraer al enemigo de las operaciones anfibias, quiere decir a los submarinos, llevarles a otro sitio diferente al que se va a efectuar, por ejemplo, un desembarco, o a los drones llevarles a falsos señuelos. Gracias.
Okay. The question is related to the there is any way to deviate the attention of the submarines in order to avoid them to attack when we are performing an amphibious operation. If there is any thought about that in your amphibious forces. How to deviate or the submarines, the threat of the submarines.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm not a sailor, but amphibious operations will always be a naval operation. So we always rely on Navy escorts, and we, within NATO, but also in the Netherlands Navy, we have our anti-submarine warfare frigates that need to keep away the enemy submarines from a maritime task group. So it's always a combination of the amphibious capability, I think, that the Marine Corps brings, and then the Navy escorts that need to provide security for the amphibious task group. Does that answer the question?
I would also answer that. Sí, puedo. Yo diría también que todos los mejores ejemplos de operaciones anfibias son operaciones conjuntas, pero dirigido desde el nivel estratégico, como decía Churchill, con una guardaespaldas de mentiras. Entonces, si mira durante la Segunda Guerra Mundial, la cantidad de esfuerzo que prestaron a desviar a los alemanes para la invasión de Sicilia, para la invasión de Normandía, porque si puede distraer a nivel estratégico, quizás los submarinos estarán en otra parte del océano. Entonces, es un esfuerzo de todos los niveles, del nivel estratégico, del nivel operacional y del nivel táctico también. Entonces, no es solamente de responsabilidad de la fuerza anfibia, pero es algo que hay que considerar. Es una parte de nuestra doctrina, ¿no? de OTAN, operaciones de distracción, sobre todo en operaciones anfibias.
Morning. Thank you very much. It was really insightful presentations by all four of you. There was an aspect that was not as mentioned, and I'm particularly interested in. So I was wondering if all four of you could give us 2 or 3 key points on the manpower challenges associated with all the projects that you have described. Thank you.
Manpower is something that I'm quite distant from in this role because I'm here as the defence attaché, so I'm not inside our headquarters. But I think the one thing that stands out to me is the challenge as we move forward technologically in increasing the skills of our soldiers, sailors, marines, and the personnel that are going to be looking to operate very advanced systems in a disaggregated way, which enables them to operate under decentralized C2. To me, that is the big challenge of how to increase those skills and then retain those people. So they don't learn those new skills and then leave. You need to keep them.
Yeah, and for the Dutch Marine Corps, recruiting is not the issue. I think there's still plenty of people that want to join the Marine Corps. There's always, if you look at the Navy, there's a challenge at technical personnel, because civilian life, they can earn a lot of money, you know, so it's harder to get technical personnel, but that's specifically a Navy challenge, I think. Our main challenge is retainment, so keep them in after 4 years or 6 years, so they don't leave the Marine Corps again, and like you said, keep that knowledge and that experience within the Marine Corps. So that's where we try to focus on. And if they still want to leave, make sure they become a reservist, so we can put them in, you know, mobilize them if needed as a flexible force. So that's also a transition that we're going to try to increase our reserve forces in case we need to increase the manpower in case of conflict.
Yes, I have two answers to this question. The first one is quite the same, is about the fact that you have to keep the skills and try to, if you don't want to recruit too much, you have to keep the skills and have people going to the civilian. This is the first thing. But the second one is much more operational. From my point of view, and it is written in both too, but it is important to think in terms of a level of forces. That is, all the guys don't have to have all the skills. If you do that, you will only have very, very few people, but not the number you need for fight. So you have to find a way that you will have probably a level of force, a level of skills that is highly skilled people, like the recon or special forces or hard infantry, but you still need also large numbers of soldiers because you need mass. So there is something to find. It is quite the same with the equipment. If you put all your money in one plane, is it better than having 250 planes that are less skilled but less performant? But so you have to find a middle way. And I think a way to think that is to think in terms of levels of forces. You can have 3, 4, or 5 levels of forces. This is what both describe in Strategy Tomorrow. You say, of course, you need very skilled people, but you also need people for the rear, for the back, for the intervals. You need a lot of people.
Let me say that in Italy we have this kind of problem. I think it's a problem of the Occident now, because the generations are changing so fast. But in my opinion, it's not only a matter of specialized to use a small unit forces able to perform and to be more effective on the field. It's also a matter of age, because amphibious forces have to be young, have to be strong, and the age in our forces is a problem. So the solution maybe will be in two different ways. The first is the specialization of the manpower, and the second one, try to find a measure to change more often the manpower.
I am Admiral Treviño, former commander of Italian-Spanish Amphibious Force. My question is related with Captain McGlory. Pero como usted habla perfectamente español, creo que se merece que se lo haga en el idioma del país en que estamos. Imagino que lo aprendió durante su curso de Estado Mayor aquí en Madrid. Comandante, nos ha hablado de un futuro buque, el littoral strike ship, que va a ser la sustitución de los dos Albion, lo cual significa que ahora mismo el Reino Unido, al darnos de baja, se ha quedado sin fuerza anfibia. En el año 82 se encontraba en una situación similar. En aquella ocasión hubo un general argentino que salvó la fuerza anfibia británica al invadir las Malvinas. Ahora mismo, dada la situación actual en Europa, ¿no cree que es un poco arriesgado dar de baja esos barcos? Y le agradecería que nos explicase un poco más sobre cómo va a ser este futuro buque, si va a ser un LHD, un LPD, o qué tipo de buque va a ser. Muchísimas gracias.
Bueno, desafortunadamente, desde la posición en que el destino en que estoy, no tengo mucha información sobre qué es el multi-role strike ship. Quizás el general sepa algo más, pero yo pienso que todavía estamos definiendo los requerimientos. The question was about what will the multi-role strike ship be like. I believe we're still in the design phase and the statement of requirements. So, pero la idea es con 6 podríamos usar siempre 5, y con esos 5 sería suficiente para tener la capacidad para la 3 Commando Brigade, para todas las unidades y reestablecer la capacidad a nivel de brigada para operaciones anfibias. Y sí, en 1982, 81, corríamos unos riesgos y dependía de una actuación por los argentinos que salvó a la mitad de la Armada también, a los portaaviones. Entonces lo que vemos ahora es una decisión, yo diría principalmente no de la Armada, sino probablemente a nivel político, de cómo vamos, o a nivel del Ministerio, cómo vamos a gestionar el dinero para invertir más en el futuro. Corrimos un riesgo hace un par de años con los portaaviones y queremos invertir más, pero hay que dejar de gastar dinero en capacidades que son quizás antiguas o débiles o requieren más dinero y mejor invertir. Formamos parte de una alianza que fue parte de la toma de decisiones de 1981 y quizás es el momento correcto para correr ese riesgo. Vamos a ver, solo sabremos mirando hacia atrás si tomamos la decisión correcta.
Una última pregunta.
Good morning. My name is Colonel Juan López, retired Marines, and it's for the 4 representatives, if it is possible. The question is, do you think that in the future the ship-to-shore movement will be possible only by air assets? And it is so, at what distance the attack must be launched from the sea? How many miles, more or less? Thank you.
Can you clarify your question? What assets do you mean? Landing craft assets, or?
Yes, the question is, do you think that the ship-to-shore movement in the future will be possible only with air assets, with helos, it means?
Oh, air assets, okay. And you asked also about the distances. I think the answer is, it all depends. It depends on the threat. It depends if you're in the enemy's weapon engagement zone or not. It's very difficult to do dock operations with an LPD if you're 40, 60 nautical miles out. So I think we'll always have to look at the circumstances, what distance you're going to be out with the sea base, and what distance you have to cross. But for our design for our new landing craft, we're looking at faster landing craft, so you can cover a longer distance in a shorter amount of time. And we're also looking at dispersed landing operations, so not so much as at one landing beach, but at landing points dispersed throughout the littorals and the coastline. But I think the main focus will be on surface assault landing craft, because in the air you're vulnerable, so we know we have to focus on surface assault as the primary means. But you know, if you look at regional plan Northwest, it might also be that we're already in country. We don't have to come from the sea. You know, if you have indicators and warnings where the tensions rise, you might deploy early and already on the land, and we use the amphibious support as a sea base for our fires, communications, reach back to our own headquarters in the Netherlands, and for our sea-based logistics. So it all depends.
Any other?
Yes, it depends on the situation, it depends on the context, and the fact is that if you decide to suppress some means, it will probably miss you in certain circumstances. And some ship-to-shore operations are not only in non-permissive area. You can be in semi-permissive area. You can need some specific access to take some specific points. And I think that it's better to try to keep the large spectrum of assets and to combine them. And suppressing the ability to come by sea will be probably a mistake from my perspective.
Ok, estoy entre el inglés y el español. Nos tomamos un break hasta las 11:30. Gracias. Thank you, Generals, Captains. Break till 11:30.
Okay. Gracias.
Thank you for the flexibility.
No problem.
You short on breathing. Yeah, you were fast.
Lo tienes ahí, pero son muy específicas de materiales.
Ah, por aquí.
Por lo menos echarle una mirada.
Vamos a continuar con las ponencias de los 3 países que restan. La secuencia será Portugal, Estados Unidos y España. Después tendremos un breve receso para cambiar un poco, en inglés se dice el setting de esto, para organizar la mesa redonda, 5 minutillos, y tendrá lugar la mesa redonda moderada por el general de división Souto. Pues sin más dilación doy paso al representante de Portugal, el capitán de navío, déjame que lo vea, Felipe Rey, ¿no?
Rey.
Felipe Rey. Felipe Rey.
Buenos días, good morning. I will speak in English because my Spanish is a mezcla de portugués con español.
Portuñol.
Thank you, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to share our vision for the futures of amphibious operations. In the following minutes, it will be shared our vision regarding the future of amphibious operations reflected in our new operating concept. In order to share our vision, we will go through these 4 agenda points. If we understand where we came from, we can see where we will have to go. And for that, it is important to understand our history, since it is our past that shapes the future. As in any country, throughout our history, there were several organizational adaptations and, of course, operations concepts to face different threats. Taking this in mind very briefly, it will be shared main historical organizational landmarks in our history. Fuzileiros go back to 1621 with the creation of Terço da Armada da Coroa de Portugal, when Portugal was ruled by Spain, that already had this capability. The goal was to be prepared for sea warfare, since the peace period with other countries would cease soon. In 1807, when our royal family departed to Brazil, Fuzileiros, named at that time as Brigada Real de Marinha, were responsible for Navy warships force protection and also responsible for ensuring royal family protection. Brigada Real de Marinha was the genesis for Brazilian naval fuzileiros creation at 1808. Between 1851 and 1924 were in place Navy expeditionary battalions to ensure the defense of overseas provinces. Over the last 4 centuries, fuzileiros have been extinguished several times, but there has always been a need for their reactivation or recreation shortly after their extinction. And we have been given various names throughout our history. Since 1961, we have been called fuzileiros, a generic term given to our infantry sailors armed with rifles called at that time fuzil. Fuzileiros were recreated in 1961 in response to the change in national defense policy in 1959 due to latent threats to national authority in African colonies. This led armed forces to intervene in the overseas provinces located in the African continent, reviewing concepts of military strategy and tactics that would adapt to the emerging threats. Our recreation in 1961 was preceded by sending 4 Navy militaries to Royal Marines Commando Corps in 1960. Our approach at that time was small fusileiros detachments similar to Royal Marines organization. The African War shifts our way of doing amphibious operations from large scale to very agile combat groups of 80 men with the ability of being split into more small groups in order to perform operations at 2 simultaneous objectives. The missions of these detachments were mainly framed by riverine operations, ambush, amphibious raid, assaults, recovery operations, destruction operations, demonstration, and special reconnaissance. Between 1974 until 2 years ago, our operating concept was near to a conventional amphibious fashion approach. But since 2023, we shift the way of doing amphibious operations. In 400 years, the last 50 years, we had a more conventional approach. This more conventional rule was a natural consequence of the world existing post-Second World War and our colonial war, where the focus lied mostly on peace support operations and, since 9/11, on the global war on terror. However, an increasingly dangerous and volatile world motivated Fusiliers from 2017 onward to change and slowly adapt, and in 2023, a formal executive order was issued by the Portuguese Navy Chief of Staff restructuring the Fusiliers Corps. Dedicated units to special combat support and special combat service support were recreated, investing in lighter, more flexible maneuver forces and redefining special operations forces. We could simplify this change to a single sentence. We, the Fusiliers, are moving back to our amphibious commando roots, bridging the gap between conventional and special operations force. This change is aligned with Chief of Defense strategic military vision that states the need of having amphibious capability, ready for the projection of force, ready for acting in a multiplicity of scenarios, including coastal or river areas, and also being able to integrate or carry out land operations, prioritizing surprise effect, high mobility, efficiency, maneuver, speed, and lethality in order to decide and act before the opponent. Alongside this capability, as stated in the same strategic military vision, Portugal must have an expeditionary capability, which guarantees autonomy of action at sea, logistical support, resupply capacity, and force projection, contributing also to the response to disasters and humanitarian assistance. Navy strategic vision, allied with SHORD strategic military vision, states the need for flexible and light force that act in geographical dispersion. And how and why did we come up with the Fusiliers concept? First, we had to face the reality. The world is changing fast with the emergence of disruptive technologies, and resources are not infinite. Second, additionally, we felt something that has been paramount to most countries: lack of volunteers that are able and willing to sacrifice and face adversity. Third, the changing threat environment pushed to have high readiness forces to be deployed, flexible enough to quickly adapt to the environment. In complement, on a motivation that pushed to change was the dilemma between political, strategic Portuguese areas of interest and financial constraints. From our perspective, this dilemma and all the facts stated is solved with a different approach. Small units, spread, unpredictable, efficient, that is, no redundant or duplication of assets or capacities that could cause high-value effects and able to change situation, game changer. And focus always on capabilities that don't increase the need of more personnel, but that could output big effects. These attributes remind us of our Fusiliers in Africa War and distributed operations concept. Yes, we found an answer on the revival of the concept of distributed operations, but we gave it a little twist. We reshaped that concept with the added value of our experience in Africa War between 61 and 74. In Africa War, our Fusiliers were employed in combat missions in small and agile combat groups spread in operations area, but also, for example, supporting main force actions and as reserve. This operating concept proved to be effective and efficient when compared to their trade-off between cost, size, and benefit. As in the past, the high-threat maritime environment implies having forces more agile that operate mainly in smaller independent groups in high readiness to be deployed in joint or combined operations, ready to integrate coalition partners, flexible and able enough to scale up in response to increasing threats. Like in Africa War, now fuselage must be ready to be deployed in missions where the effects produced are high value and game changer. This implies operations focus on decisive points and/or centers of gravity, which means having multiple points of presence operating over wider areas at the same time, let's say spread in amphibious operations area, increasing more constraints in the opponent decision-making process about protecting their own value assets versus reacting to what happened. Regarding this approach, our concept is being tested combining fuselage combat groups, special operations task units, and Navy combat divers EOD teams in distributed operations in a supported fashion way. The new fuselage reshape are framed by being light force, operating from sea to sea, from sea to land or on land in scenarios where the liquid element confers an advantage in mobility, access, depth, and the ability to operate under surprise. Thus, more important than having heavy force to project onto land, these will be from the Army, transported by the Navy or Air Force, will be having small, agile, light, flexible, and spread force in area of operations, capable of being disruptive in the way of doing things, that can take full advantage of the water-land interface, which is riverine environment. This is a concept based on light, flexible, and highly capable small combat groups that execute distributed spread operations, exploring the utmost of the surprise effect, velocity, mobility, lethality, concentrated firepower, and technology exploration, and thereby disconcerting our enemies with a loop, which means decide and act before opponent, making it ineffective to combat our operations tempo. Framed in this concept, we are consolidating supporting approach between special forces and special operations forces, as well destructing and systematization of a dual-let special forces support group. As we all know, Maritime Special Operations Force, in support of fuselage Navy Special Force, is under the umbrella of shaping operations and action, as stated in ATP 8. Regarding Special Force Support Group, this is framed by ensuring support, protection, and shaping. Special Force Support Group is a dual-let approach, focused on capabilities that don't increase the need of more personnel, but that could output big effects, and at the same time be efficient, remaining no redundancy or duplication of assets or capacities. In this approach, some support capabilities are the same for maritime special operations or for Navy special forces. As conclusions, first, TTPs change. The battlefield gets more complex, but the fundamentals are still and always key, making the difference between a hellish nightmare and an operation that is resilient and able to withstand unforeseen events. The commander does not need to see everything all the time. This is not capable C2. This is simply the natural reply to unreasonable expectations and poorly trained combat force and leadership. In distributed spread operations, this kind of expectations is simply not possible to meet without representing an operational risk to the men on the ground due to increased electromagnetic footprint. So we consider that one has always to sacrifice situational awareness to some extent for security's sake, but always maintaining the ability to influence events on the battlefield. On the other hand, C2 must be agile and resilient, combining efficiency in the cognitive, informational, and physical domains, meaning that the right information must meet the right actor in the right moment, in the right format. Finally, battle management systems are an excellent tool to make sense and bring some order to the battlefield. State-of-the-art systems can already integrate communications, sensors, humans included, and weapon systems, and are a powerful force multiplier on the ground. But on the other hand, these systems provide an enormous amount of data, and the ability to process that through the information cycle, speed versus quality, creating or generating useful information can mean the difference between decision paralysis due to information overload and fast, well-informed decisions and actions. The integration of artificial intelligence will be crucial to make sense of those high data volumes, and it simply cannot be overlooked in the near future. As Andrew remarks, operational tempo or speed is the defining factor for our operating concept, thus allowing us to interfere with the opponent with a loop, throwing it out of sync with our ongoing operations. In order to ensure speed, we are investing on mobility, weapon systems, and equipments that are highly technological and efficient, with the downside of own protection, sacrificing armor and firepower in absolute terms. On the other hand, sustainment is also a problem for speed's sake, thus limiting our operations time frame. Our amphibious dispersed distributed operations in vision constitute not only a challenge for the planning process, but also for the C2, where concepts like human augmentation, artificial intelligence augmented team, or human-machine teaming are a keystone. With this final thought, I finish our vision sharing. Muchas gracias. Thank you for your attention.
Ahora es el momento para el coronel David Moore de las Fuerzas de los Marines en Europa y África.
Well, good morning. I will also do mine in English. I'm challenged enough with learning German where I'm living in Stuttgart, Germany, and I'm afraid my 9th and 10th grade Spanish classes will not serve me very well today. So with that, Admiral Sanz, Major General Soto, thank you very much for the opportunity today and the invitation. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, I'm Colonel David Moore. I come from Marine, I'm the G5 for Marine Forces Europe and Africa. So we are the component command underneath both EUCOM and AFRICOM, executing tasks for both, as well as the service back home. We receive and bring into operation any of the forces that would come over to support exercises, crisis, contingency ops as necessary in the theater. So 3 bosses, as we say. Today, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about amphibious, the future of amphibious operations from the Marine Corps' perspective. Let's see. Oh, am I doing it? Okay, here's the agenda for the next few minutes. I'll begin first by discussing current U.S. Marine Corps amphibious concepts. These are recent operational concepts released within the last 10 years and influence how we operate. And you've heard of our force design. We are reconfiguring the force towards these mission sets, much designed towards the Pacific theater. But as we do this, we recognize there's great relevance to apply that across the globe and do the things we need to do as a Marine Corps. I'll then spend a few minutes discussing a future concept which the Marine Corps is developing and exploring, things that are still underway right now, and then some key implications from our perspective. One note to address, this doesn't get into tactical formations and equipment so much as concepts. So. Okay, this slide depicts some of the recent concepts either developed or are in development related to amphibious operations. First starting, you can see with the 2017 littoral operations in a contested environment. We call it LOCE for short, L-O-C-E, LOCE. It's a combined Navy and Marine Corps concept which serves as the forerunner for the other concepts, really. It also directed the coupled writing of the Navy's Distributed Maritime Operations, DMO. So it has forced, it's recognized and sort of forced a naval distributed concept as a Navy Marine Corps team. I think a lot of what's been discussed by the others here today. It also led to the Navy Marine Corps' Expeditionary Advanced Base Operations. We call that EABO, EBO, perhaps, which we will discuss. But LOCE did a few things for the Marine Corps. It identified the new and complex operational problem that most understand today, that persistent A2AD. We recognize that the landward and seaward basically got extended by the threat systems coming out, that area denial, anti-access area denial, and the proliferation of the munitions that support that concept. It tasked the Marine Corps to operate in all 5 dimensions of the littorals: the seaward, the landward, the airspace above, the cyberspace, and all across the electromagnetic spectrum, multi-domain ops. It gave us an actual definition for littorals. It's the portion of the world's land masses adjacent to the ocean, within direct control of and vulnerable to the striking power of sea-based forces. It's all about that littoral terrain, the mastery, as was said, the mastery but maneuver and operation within the littoral terrain. We recognize that since that seaward has been extended so much, we've accepted the fact that we're going to operate inside the weapons engagement zone. So let's figure out how to do that. That's what our concept's all about. So the littorals comprise 2 segments. There's a seaward, I've kind of been talking about, the area from the open ocean to the shore, which must be controlled to support operations ashore, and the landward, that area inland from the shore. Again, both of those have been expanded. LOCE also considers the what's called the Composite Warfare Command. That's something we're spending a lot of time on. That is essentially recognizing that the Navy and Marine Corps team, while essential and always has been essential, there's a fusing of the staffs, and that's something at Marfor URAF we're spending a lot of time. If you've heard of the JFMC, the Joint Forces Maritime Component Command, we are right now over the next few months trying to figure out how to best, when something happens, crisis contingency, that type of thing, Marines would go down from Stuttgart to Naples and integrate with our within the COC, the MOC, the Maritime Operations Center down there, and work together. That command and control is that important, we recognize, because it's a persistent operation. It's no longer just the sea to ship to shore maneuver and you're on from there. It is operating in and amongst the littorals. So we recognize that brings with it an integration of the staffs that's necessary. Next, the tentative manual for EABO is the way by which we position and sustain combat credible forces. It was 2019. Inherently a naval concept designed to support naval and joint sensors, shooters, and sustainment capabilities. EABs are those expeditionary advanced bases are envisioned to be in austere temporary locations ashore or inshore. So a little bit on what we consider from base, moving to the more austere base, to advanced naval base, to EABs, right? So a base is a locality from which you operate. That's home base, right? An advanced base, the difference being it's primarily there to support operations. So you're getting a little more forward, advanced bases. I think of what we built in Iraq and Afghanistan as an advanced base, Guam, Okinawa, Hawaii, for instance. And you get advanced naval bases. Those aren't in doctrine yet, but we refer to them temporary, established near an operational area whose primary mission is to support fleet operations, to include EABO, during the conduct of a naval campaign. Ideally, that's outside of the WEZ, the weapons engagement zone, but that's just ideal. So we may understand that we're inside, and as we look at the Pacific theater, you see that if you've heard us talk about the first and second island chain, Okinawa and those are on the first island chain. So we were operating inside the WEZ of those already in our advanced naval bases. And then there's expeditionary advanced bases within the potential adversary's WEZ. So again, that recognizes the idea that we need to learn to operate from within there. We'll accomplish assigned missions seaward while also enabling sustainment and defense of friendly forces therein. So as we're looking to that definition, the expansion of that definition gets more and more austere. We are operating and learning and experimenting right now with EAB and continuing to learn with EABO in these austere environments. The idea being we need to reduce our own internal complexity while raising the operational complexity, basically the problems for the adversary as we do so. Give them a problem they have to deal with. And that brings us to the next, which is the stand-in forces. And it sounds like that's everyone's, some are using that terminology already, so it's good to see that our concepts are overlapping. So stand-in forces, a concept developed by the Marine Corps in 2021, so very recent. It envisions forces that are small but lethal, that have a low signature, are mobile, and are relatively simple to maintain and sustain. We envision that they need to be able to persist inside that WEZ, inside that weapons engagement zone for extended periods. They're designed to operate across the competition continuum within a contested area as the leading edge of a maritime defense in depth in order to intentionally disrupt the plans of a potential or actual adversary. So again, lethal, low signature, mobile, challenges from technology and mobility aspects, right? Simple to sustain and maintain, leading edge across the continuum, multi-domain, in order to get out there and disrupt and give the enemy something they have to deal with. A lot there for that stand-in force to do. These can be composed of elements from the Marine Corps, the Navy, the Coast Guard, interagency, special operations forces, and to highlight allies and partners. The Marine Corps is always, our Marine Corps is always going to be out there projecting somewhere. We're never doing stand-in force operations to defend our homeland. That's going to be very rare. So we're always looking to tie in with our allies and partners. Their enduring function is to help the fleet and joint force win the reconnaissance and counter-reconnaissance battle at every point along the competition continuum. Inherently naval. So a few things on their list of things to be able to do: to deny, disrupt, seize, and hold key terrain, recon and counter-recon, expeditionary warfare operations or operate within the electromagnetic spectrum, deception, maritime domain awareness to contribute to, and also contribute to sea control, sea denial. So it's a big list for a small force, but that's what we're getting after. They're designed to become an operational problem the adversary must address. From these concepts, we get to the new 21st century amphibious operation concept. It's still in draft. We're still in work on it, and it's designed to take the concepts I've been talking about and bring them to the operational level, and considering new approaches across for broad amphibious operations. Okay, good. Okay, 21st century amphibious operations. It was only released last April, so 1 year ago, April of 2024. So it's a brand new concept, continues to gain steam within the service. The first couple of bullets there on the slide, I've already spoken to in the SIF discussion. Use of the maritime terrain as a Navy Marine Corps team as a maneuver area, omnidirectionally as needed to create and exploit and influence the entire objective area. I say omnidirectional. It's not just the ship to shore, it is operating and maneuvering within, considering the littoral a maneuver area and mastering that and using it, adding that to the enemy's list of things to deal with. The document is currently classified but explores 4 broad topics related to amphibious operations. These include the potential new types of amphibious operations, scalable formations, streamlined command and control structures, and an updated operational phasing. So the new types of amphibious operations will follow here. Of note, these need to be viewed within the context of the previous discussions related to EBO, the littorals, and SIFs. So first, an amphibious insertion extraction, which is an overt operation to occupy a landing force objective while challenging the will or ability of the opposition. That is kind of the classic amphibious operations. What I do add is I said insertion, extraction. We're recognizing it's not just move to the shore, the Navy goes back off into sanctuary, and the Marine forces move forward. That sanctuary doesn't exist anymore. There's going to be we have to recognize that it goes in both directions. The second operation is an amphibious infiltration exfiltration. Sounds much the same, but this is a covert operation. avoiding detection to occupy that landing force objective. The third is an amphibious fires raid, which is by definition the employment of a sea denial capability followed by a planned withdrawal. So again, raid, specific task, you get in there, sea denial, and you pull back out. Finally, an amphibious resupply, which is an operation to sustain the force ashore. Again, this recognizes that it's persistent, it's going to continue. So use the ways and means of the amphibious force, figure out how to sustain it. Again, it's there to persist. When considering scalable amphibious operations, we look at traditional formations from a Marine Corps perspective, but we do what we call the Marine Corps task organization. You look at the specific task of that amphibious force, you take a formation, you add or subtract to it capability-wise, and that's task organization. It may get smaller, may get larger, but it's got a specific purpose, and you task organize for that precise objective. And that's how the U.S. Marine Corps operates anyway. And realizing that the SIF integrated amphibious operations assist the landing force as they contribute to the overall maritime campaign and further facilitate the ability to scale amphibious forces. So tying in with that stand-in force is certainly something you consider as you task organize the amphibious. In terms of streamlined command and control, we consider new command and control structures no longer the Cardiff Cliff Commander Amphibious Task Force, Commander Land Forces. We used to talk about the phasing ashore. Now we recognize that, again, the fusing of the staffs a bit more, working together, and it may be that you have to command and control from one or the other throughout the entire operation. It's no longer a one-way movement. So that adds to the need for increased complexity, perhaps, but consider that during the command and control. Finally, the 21st century amphibious ops seeks to revamp the traditional amphibious phasing model. It's no longer necessarily the sequential, dependent on sanctuary I've mentioned. It's no longer the ship to shore, go back out into sanctuary. These things happen throughout the amphibious operation. Shaping occurs throughout, sustainment occurs throughout, and of course, command and control. Next slide. Okay, there we go. Okay, on this slide, just going to offer a few thoughts regarding potential implications of these changes to the Marine Corps' approach to amphibious operation. Our concepts recognize and honor the continued evolution of the complex operating environment which previous concepts address. We understand it will continue to evolve. Our concept recognizes this and basically faces it head on. It was no longer the sort of the arms race between A2AD and our ability to project further and further, to get to the shore. We put that behind us and said we're going inside the WES. Now let's figure it out. So there's a continued evolution as the enemy evolves, we evolve. But that should be with any concept. But we recognize that complexity and the challenge. Second, these concepts can and should directly impact our approach to deliberate planning, both as individual nations, but broadly as an alliance. This is reinforced by the fact that many emerging concepts within MARCOM are already directly aligned with the Marine Corps' approach. So the NAILS conference, I'm sure many of us attended those concepts. It's good to see that the concept we're looking at from our Marine Corps Warfighting Lab aligns directly with some terminology differences, but overall we recognize the distributed nature, the advanced amphibious ops or the SIF, and really there's just a highlight here. We rely on allies and partners. We're always going to be projecting forward and tying in with allies and partners that we should have a habitual relationship, interoperability, always the challenge, right? But that's really why we're all here, right? Of note, this alignment highlights the need to increase the overall mindset of amphibiosity. I'll give you the definition of amphibiosity, which essentially tries to tie together the different concepts. So we define amphibiosity as the complementary efforts of both land and seaward forces to achieve periods of discrete and episodic advantages across multiple domains. This includes training, equipping, planning for, and execution of amphibious, coastal defense, and advanced space operations in and throughout the littorals. Finally, and in line with SIF, these concepts reinforce the strategic advantage in our alliance. As defined, a SIF includes our allies and partners. And when considering this theater and the nature of our alliance, it's almost a certainty. It's a certainty that when we operate in the Baltics, Black Sea, or what have you, we are absolutely going to tie in to an ally or partner that's already there to execute those stand-in force operations. And with that in mind, I'll go to this slide, which, so Littoral Gambit, making a pitch for something that is coming along, we are doing, MARFOR EURAF, Marine Forces Europe Africa. We're sponsoring a war game that gets after this very thing. The problem I've been talking about, how do U.S. and NATO amphibious forces address the increasing threat posed by anti-axis aerial denial capabilities as an alliance? How do we do this? How do we tie together our capabilities and work together towards this problem? So we're going to war game it here in Quantico in October 20 to 24. So we're in our final concept developments of this, but you'll get invites, or your countries will get invites to this war game. We're looking to explore the future of integrated amphibious operations within NATO and enhance future live experimentation, operational planning exercises. So this is how we get after the how of to do this. We'll examine the employment of amphibious forces in support of NATO plans, synchronized and combined concept development, and inform the nails. So hopefully this carries forward. We'll take away, and it's a good time for this because, as we know, the regional plans are in revision this year. So we hope to have some outcomes from this very thing that we can bring into the revisions of the regional plans, which currently don't make a whole lot of use, minus, I think they're an operational reserve. So we want to see a little more in that. We're seeing a lot of these concepts. They come together. We have a lot more to offer than an operational theater reserve, right? So we want to bring that into the rewrites for the RPs. So who do we have? We'll have, you see we have MARCOM, Strike Force NATO, the 6th and 2nd Fleet representatives from the U.S. Navy, 2MEF, that's our force on the East Coast. All the Marines that come and operate with you in theater come from 2MEF in Camp Lejeune, EUCOM, and of course yourselves with amphibious capabilities. So with that, that closes my discussion.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Pues finalmente damos paso a la intervención española a cargo del coronel de Infantería Marina Núñez, el jefe de Estado Mayor del Cuartel General de Infantería Marina.
Generales, señoras, señores, buenos días. En primer lugar, quería agradecer la oportunidad que me dan, el honor y el placer que tengo al haberme asignado la responsabilidad de presentar una visión de España sobre las operaciones anfibias del futuro. Y enfrentarme a este reto tan enriquecedor como es en 20 minutos ser capaz de transmitir en un lenguaje que esté a la altura de audiencia del máximo nivel técnico y táctico, como al público en general aquí presente o que nos escuche a través del canal Armada. Todo hacerlo en 20 minutos y sabiendo que llevan muchos de ustedes 3 días de congreso y que hoy es la octava ponencia. Espero que lleguen hasta el final. Para hablar de una visión sobre las operaciones anfibias del futuro o el concepto de proyección anfibia del futuro de la Armada Española, voy a seguir esta agenda que es bastante sencilla. En primer lugar, dar un poco de enfoque, de contexto a por qué estamos discutiendo ahora sobre el futuro de las operaciones anfibias. Porque esto lo hemos hecho siempre, pero ¿por qué ahora? En segundo lugar, aunque ponga ahí, es nuestra doctrina válida. Cuando hablo de doctrina, hablaré de todo lo que arrastra la doctrina, que es nuestra forma de generar capacidades que sean capaces de realizar operaciones. En este caso, operaciones anfibias o de proyección anfibia. Y por último, daré unas breves pinceladas sobre las ideas principales incluidas en el nuevo concepto de proyección anfibia de la Armada española. No se bloqueen con la presentación, no voy a revisar todas las variables, todas las tendencias, todos los trends que hay ahora mismo en el contexto internacional. Llevamos hablando, yo llevo 30 y tantos años de servicio y llevo hablando de la litoralización 35 años. La litoralización siempre ha existido, pero estamos avanzando más en la litoralización. Como ponemos ahí, cada vez más porcentaje de la población mundial vive cerca de la costa, muy cerca de la costa, dentro de lo que se le llama el campo de batalla litoral. Sabemos que todo el comercio, gran parte del comercio mundial circula por vías marítimas, el 90% de las mercancías llegan por mar y, no menos importante, el 95 o más por ciento de las comunicaciones circulan por cables submarinos. Y todo esto en un ambiente creciente de aquí en el futuro, de competición por agua, energía, materiales especiales para la tecnología. La siguiente tendencia de la que tenemos que hablar es que está resurgiendo la competencia entre grandes potencias. Esta competencia entre grandes potencias siempre ha existido, ha estado un poco en segundo plano desde la caída del muro de Berlín, los años 90, la larga guerra contra el terror, pero superada esa fase estamos de vuelta en una cierta tensión entre grandes potencias, pero no hemos dejado de tener actores no estatales. Eso genera lo que vemos aquí, un continuo entre la paz, la competición, el conflicto armado y la guerra, y el concepto de zona gris, que es todo lo que sucede por debajo de la apertura del conflicto armado. Los estados, las naciones-estado, seguirán teniendo sus 4 herramientas conocidas por todos: diplomacia, información, la herramienta militar y la económica, cada una a su nivel de implicación, y la militar, como sabemos, toma papel preponderante a partir del conflicto armado y la guerra. Lo he mencionado brevemente con anterioridad, la competición geopolítica. Solo tenemos que ver cualquier informativo, vemos permanentemente focos de tensión, y no solo focos de tensión, guerras abiertas que no teníamos hace 3 o 4 años. No hace falta que mencionemos lo que está sucediendo en el este de Europa, los conflictos olvidados que hay en África, Birmania, o el conflicto latente por rivalidad en el Índico y Pacífico. Y esto va a seguir evolucionando. De aquí al 2050 es muy posible que la economía mundial se duplique en capacidad. Esa nueva potencia económica no va a estar distribuida como hasta ahora, de forma que muchas que ahora mismo son potencias de segundo orden superarán a potencias económicas tradicionales, y indefectiblemente con el desarrollo económico aumenta el desarrollo de la capacidad militar. Hay otros factores, como podría ser la apertura de la ruta norte de los mares del norte del Ártico, y la susceptibilidad que ya tienen de los Global Commons, los océanos, de ser susceptibles a la influencia de grupos terroristas o actividad híbrida por debajo del umbral del conflicto. Un par de transparencias más para darle contexto a qué es lo que ha cambiado, que nos haga plantearnos cómo serán las operaciones en el futuro. Llevábamos casi 30 años de conflictos que no llegaban a a cruzar el umbral de guerra abierta. Eso ya no sucede. En los últimos años se han generado 3 conflictos generales que se pueden denominar de guerra abierta. A la vez, hay una tendencia nueva al rearme. Esto no es una causa, es una consecuencia. La última escalada armamentística parecida a la que se está, o bueno, si no quieren usar el término rearme, se puede utilizar el de potenciación de capacidades militares, sucedió al final de la Guerra Fría. Esta tendencia está cuantificada hasta 2023, los números de 2024 se están cerrando ahora y la tendencia esa que ven en la presentación continuará aumentando. Al mismo tiempo, ya se ha mencionado varias veces en la jornada hoy, hay un posible cambio de paradigma de la forma de enfocar las operaciones militares debido al gran empuje que tiene la tecnología en los últimos años. Como leen ahí, hay un aumento dramático en la letalidad y la efectividad de las armas y la proliferación de sistemas remotos, tripulados remotamente o incluso autónomos. Al mismo tiempo, vivimos en la época de la hiperconectividad y esta hiperconectividad está dando capacidades nuevas a las fuerzas armadas y esas capacidades nuevas tienden a modelar nuestra forma de combatir, pero que nos enfrentaremos al reto de compaginar esa hiperconectividad con la degradación del mando y control que sucederá sí o sí, pase lo que pase, durante el combate. Y eso obligará a hacer adaptaciones en el tipo de mando que utilizamos. Y por último, los efectos en el ciberespacio y la última dimensión que se ha incorporado al campo de batalla multidimensional, que es el ciberespacio. Llegamos al concepto de operaciones en el multidominio. Ya las operaciones para los aliados y las operaciones nacionales son multidominio, en el mar, en tierra, en el aire, en el espacio y en el ciberespacio. Afortunadamente, las fuerzas anfibias ya siempre han manejado 3 de ellos, con lo cual nuestra adaptación es bastante más sencilla. Es adaptarnos al ciberespacio y al espacio en lo que nos corresponda. ¿Pero qué implica? Que tendremos que ser capaces de generar efectos en todos los dominios. Y lo que es más importante es entender que la amenaza o el adversario es un sistema que trabaja en todos los dominios y tenemos que ser capaces de afectarles a sus capacidades en todos los dominios. Ya el enemigo no es un template, el enemigo no es una forma de operar en tierra, no es una forma de operar en el mar y en el espacio, ahora también opera en el hiperespacio, en el ciberespacio y en el espacio. Y por último, ya se ha mencionado de pasada varias veces en las presentaciones lo que supone en particular para las operaciones anfibias el A2AD, el antiacceso y el denegación de área. No se preocupen por las imágenes, esas imágenes forzadamente son así de naif porque le pregunté a la inteligencia artificial que me hiciese una imagen sobre qué entiende la inteligencia artificial por antiacceso. Y luego le hice una pregunta sobre denegación de área. Ese es el resultado. El antiacceso lo que impide es que las fuerzas anfibias lleguen al teatro. Entonces operan fuera del teatro, fuera de bordes de fronteras nacionales, más allá de aguas territoriales, más allá de aguas de soberanía. Opera antes de que el combate pudiese empezar, pero este no es un sistema que se pueda generar tan fácilmente. Es un sistema que depende enormemente en la integración, justamente en el multidominio del adversario. Y lo que intenta es evitar que se acceda al teatro aumentando el coste de la entrada y, por tanto, produciendo disuasión. Una vez que se hubiese llegado a superar ese antiacceso, nos encontraríamos con la denegación de área, que lo que busca sucede ya dentro de la zona del teatro, dentro del espacio de batalla litoral que llamamos ahora, y ya tiene efectos tácticos, busca degradar, disminuir la velocidad, canalizar al adversario, en este caso a la fuerza anfibia. Los sistemas son tácticos, ya no es necesario operar en el nivel estratégico con sistemas, por ejemplo, como misiles balísticos o de largo alcance. Está más orientada a que no se pueda maniobrar y que no se consigan al final tener efectos tácticos en tierra. Y esto no es independiente del anterior, sino que se complementan. No es que me encuentro con una y con la otra, sino que se mantienen en el tiempo las dos, impidiendo el sostenimiento de las fuerzas. Hasta aquí acaba el contexto. Espero que no haya sido excesivamente largo, pero creo que era interesante para continuar. Y ahora, ¿qué es lo que estamos haciendo? ¿Cómo nos enfrentamos a esto tradicionalmente? Es nuestra doctrina y con eso nuestra capacidad para generar capacidades, es nuestra aproximación correcta. Tampoco se asusten con esta presentación. Esto es muy simple, es un concepto que conviene repasar de vez en cuando. El concepto de capacidad de combate o potencia de combate se basa en tres pilares fundamentales. Uno es un componente conceptual, lo que aparece arriba como las ideas detrás de cómo combatimos, de cómo entendemos la guerra, qué filosofía del combate tenemos, qué principios inmutables tenemos, los medios con los que operamos, los que producen los efectos, y luego la voluntad para combatir. Sin la existencia de los tres, es imposible que la capacidad se materialice. Y a su vez, luego para desarrollarla, utilizamos en castellano el sistema mirado, o en países aliados el sistema Don't. Tenemos que desarrollar cualquier capacidad en términos de doctrina, de organización, de adiestramiento, de material, de liderazgo, de formación y de interoperabilidad. ¿Lo estamos haciendo? Sí. Nuestra forma de entender el combate, nuestra doctrina, que arrastra el resto de capacidades, se basa, como ya se ha mencionado aquí, en el ATP 8. Ahí tienen una presentación de qué incluye el ATP 8, nuestro libro de cabecera durante tantos años: utilidad, cometidos, definiciones, características, tipos de operaciones anfibias, secuencia, cómo hacemos el mando y control, cómo planeamos, nos embarcamos, conformamos el campo de batalla, ensayamos, hacemos la acción. Todo eso ahora mismo está en revisión. En particular, marco ahí los tipos de operaciones anfibias, la secuencia, los tipos de fuerzas que pueden hacer las fuerzas anfibias. Algunos de los ponentes de hoy han hablado de nuevas fuerzas, algunos han hablado de nuevos tipos de mando y control, algunos han hablado de cambios en la secuencia de las operaciones anfibias. Pero por otra parte también nos ha permitido llegar a este momento en el que somos capaces de pensar en términos como los que aparecen ahora mismo en el ATP 8, En cuanto a características de las operaciones anfibias, la necesidad de la integración de la fuerza naval y de la fuerza de desembarco, integración es más que cooperación. Integración es la máxima combinación y sinergias de capacidad de combate, la unidad de esfuerzo y la coherencia operacional. Eso entronca con el multidominio, eso entronca con que las operaciones anfibias no son nada por sí solas, están siempre dentro del ambiente operacional estratégico, que hay que organizarse y reorganizarse para la misión, y organizarse y reorganizarse para la misión no es algo que pueda hacer todo el mundo, forma parte de nuestra naturaleza. Y por último, como ya aparece en nuestra querida publicación, es necesario conseguir y mantener acceso a la zona litoral. O sea, son conceptos que ya existen en nuestra doctrina. ¿En qué más nos basamos? En los principios de la guerra, son verdades inmutables que llevamos 2000 años combatiendo y es de donde hemos aprendido a combatir. La guerra de maniobra, entendemos el enemigo como un sistema que opera en el multidominio, evitamos puntos fuertes, creamos y explotamos debilidades y utilizamos el mar como un espacio de maniobra. Nuestras fuerzas tienen que ser creíbles, equilibradas, integradas, versátiles, que estén disponibles, porque si no la operación anfibia deja de ser útil, y sostenibles. Y, por supuesto, no para conflictos de baja intensidad, sino alta intensidad. Estoy acabando.
5 minutos.
España, después de entender todo esto, ¿qué es lo que ha hecho la Armada española? Nuestro almirante, el almirante jefe de Estado de la Armada, en su documento Armada 2050, donde plantea su visión a medio y largo plazo, dice que la Armada, para adaptarse al cambio, para ser capaz de adaptarse al cambio, en el futuro tiene que apoyarse en estos 4 pilares: ser decisivo y relevante desde el mar, ejemplar en el compromiso con valores y con nuestro personal, estar en la vanguardia tecnológica y eficientes en la gestión de recursos. Estos son los mandamientos de la visión del AGEMA. La AGEMA, en cuanto a operaciones anfibias, ¿qué es lo que dice en su documento de visión? La visión de la Armada, no solo de las operaciones anfibias o de proyección, que la capacidad anfibia es el principal factor para el dimensionamiento de la Armada española, ya que va a definir el tamaño de la infantería de marina, la cantidad y tipo de buques, escoltas, submarinos, aeronaves, etcétera, que le permitan su protección y garanticen su libertad de acción. Cuatro puntos sobre este concepto: que las fuerzas anfibias, en su configuración general, son capaces de realizar las 4 misiones de la Fuerza Naval: disuasión y defensa, gestión de crisis, seguridad marítima y proyección. Pero hace hincapié en este punto, que se compromete firmemente en mantener la capacidad para realizar asaltos anfibios. Asaltos anfibios de teoría. Con alto nivel de disponibilidad, siendo conscientes del reto de derrotar la amenaza A2AD, y para ello prevé un plan que presento en 2 transparencias. Primero, esto es conceptualmente cómo degradar y permitir que se realice la operación anfibia. Esto no busquen detalles tácticos, es una idea que lo que hace es plantear que para poder realizar un asalto anfibio tradicional en una burbuja 2AD será necesario un shaping, una conformación inicial del espacio littoral, luego habrá que adquirir el control de ese espacio littoral y finalmente explotar y conseguir los efectos deseados. Y para eso, y con esto termino, plantea un esquema general de cómo desarrollar las capacidades de proyección anfibia de la Armada, partiendo de la fase en la que nos encontraríamos ahora, que es la fase de mejora, la fase de potenciación de capacidades, en la que se están renovando y adquiriendo capacidades que estaban obsoletas, afectan prácticamente a todos los sistemas que componen la fuerza anfibia. Una fase de evolución, en el que habrá que evidentemente evolucionar a nuevos vectores de proyección que permitan alargar las distancias a costa, nuevos tipos de conectores y nuevos tipos de buques para finalmente llegar a la fase de consolidación con fuerzas que puedan mantener esa disponibilidad permanente. Con esto finalizo mi presentación. Disculpad por pasarme 3 minutos. Si tienen alguna pregunta, muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, mi coronel. Ahora nos tomamos unos 10 minutillos, que es el tiempo que nos va a llevar remodelar el escenario para la mesa redonda.
Standing force, yeah. Standing force.
Hace entrada el almirante jefe del Estado Mayor de la Armada con el jefe del Estado Mayor de la Armada portugués. Gracias. Bueno, pues damos paso al último evento de estas jornadas, que es la mesa redonda, en la que tomarán parte, y los nombro por orden de mi izquierda hacia mi izquierda, el brigadier general Ivo Moerman, comandante de la Infantería de Marina de los Países Bajos, el mayor general Mark Totten, director del Navy Staff del Reino Unido, el general de división Souto Aguirre, comandante general de la Infantería Marina Española, el general de división Hervé Pierre, es jefe de la 9ª Brigada de Infantería de Marina francesa, y el contraalmirante Massimiliano Gracioso, comandante de la Fuerza Anfibia y de la Brigada Marina San Marco. Coordina la mesa el general de división Souto. Mi general.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for being here, attending this roundtable that puts an end to this day of perspective concerning the amphibious operations. Throughout this morning, the position of the Netherlands, the UK, France, Italy, Portugal, the USA, and Spain concerning the future of the amphibious capabilities have been presented. In this roundtable, with authorities representing 5 of these allied countries, we are going to underline the essential aspects of these countries' posture and try to delve into their differences, if any. We will conduct till 3 rounds of interventions, and I will begin the first one, in which every participant will try to summarize the main aspects conditioning their national postures. I will begin myself by summarizing the Spanish Navy posture that was presented by Colonel Núñez earlier this morning. For the Armada, despite new technologies and the much-feared A2AD bubbles, amphibious capability in the future will continue to be as relevant as it is today and as it was through the history that we have briefly reviewed during the first 2 days of this Congress. In fact, we think that the same reasons that led the Spanish monarch Philip II to make a decision that definitively boosted this capacity by creating the first force specialized in conducting amphibious operations, the Spanish Marine Corps, are the same reasons allowing us today to affirm that amphibious forces will continue to be relevant in the future. In fact, the amphibious force provides to the joint force with a unique expeditionary capacity that, taking advantage of the sea as a space of maneuver, allows this high readiness force to create a dilemma that affects the adversary at its strategic and operational levels. For the Spanish Navy, it is in this ability to generate dilemmas at the highest level of the adversary's decision structure where the amphibious forces' deterrent capacity lies. We understand that an essential element for this deterrent capacity is the size of the landing force that the amphibious force is able to land ashore, threatening that way the enemy's vital interests and forcing him to modify the deployment of his forces, normally in a direction contrary to that of his initial interest. For the Armada, this minimum entity of the land force capable of provoking these dilemmas in the adversary is the brigade-level landing force. Obviously, we accept that the posture of each country on this point responds to strategic reasons directly linked with the defense needs of each one. In the case of a country like Spain, with significant archipelagos and overseas territories, this capacity of deterrence is inalienable. Nevertheless, we also consider that this capacity is fundamental for our contribution to NATO and the European Union, since the global trend is to give more and more relevance to the coastal stripe due to the concentration of the world's population in coastal cities. This national contribution to alliance is especially interesting when considering that most of our European allies have not sufficiently developed this amphibious capability. In summary, for the Armada, the ability to influence the activity on land, having always been relevant, is inalienable nowadays. In fact, we assume that the Navy without the capacity to influence on land may become irrelevant in today's world. So that amphibious capacity, as has been said before, becomes the center of gravity of our fleet, and the size of the amphibious force that we define will determine the final dimension and capacities of the whole fleet. That is my initial intervention. Let's go around the table, please. Major General Totten.
Thank you. I'd like to start by saying what a privilege it is to be here this afternoon and to speak with you all. So I'm very grateful for the invitation and humbled by the clarity of thought that we've heard from all speakers. So to summarize the UK position, in the context of an international system that is currently fighting to re-establish order in the system, we recognize that nations move towards their deterrence postures as a mitigation element of that order. And our amphibious capability is geared towards supporting our deterrence posture as a nation. And therefore, we are, like all the colleagues today, developing our warfighting capability focused around support to NATO and the Regional Plan Northwest. We recognize the Allied effort and we value the fact that we can participate with other nations thinking the same way. But we live the tension that all of the nations have expressed between generating and maintaining warfighting capability and maintaining response options that politicians continually want. Our political masters will always come to the amphibious force because of its maneuverability and its quality to offer response options in times of crisis, and we see that very much in the Eastern Mediterranean, Middle Eastern theatre for us. So that's one tension that we're resolving. But if we choose, we are choosing the warfighting capability into NATO. The second point is recognising the current challenge, which you all recognise through the A2AD challenge. We wish to optimise our forces for that. We recognise that the battlefield punishes exquisite and expensive. We recognise that it punishes exposure. It punishes the fact that you do not decoy and deceive and are able to hide within the electromagnetic spectrum, and it punishes if you deploy forces that you cannot logistically support. So therefore we are recognising that challenge, and that is why we are moving in the way we are. We are creating closer proximity to the carrier strike group, a major output of the Navy, and we are pushing amphibious forces to be part of maritime strike. So really situating our effort to deliver strike opportunities as part of the littoral strike group that includes carrier forces and amphibious forces. And one perception that we often have to counter is that the fact that we are tactically dispersed does not mean that we are no longer operating at formation level and commanding and controlling as a brigade effort. This remains a formation level effort, but with a new tactical laydown and a new approach to how the brigade level has to command. Much more predictive queuing of fires and logistic support, battlefield control, vice close manoeuvre of parts on the battlefield. I want to recognise the mass versus concentration, mass versus disposal, dispersal and specialisation debate. It's great to hear how Hervé and French-Italian colleagues are approaching this, and we need as a nation to make sure that we are, or as an alliance, sorry, to make sure we are balanced. In the UK, we're working hard to optimise the commando force, but to look at how the UK, the British Army, is supporting that mass effort and work really as a joint force. Two final points. One is on the digitalisation of our effort. At the heart, our change programme is a digitalisation effort. We have developed our own CON system called the Enhanced Virtual Environment. I think it seeks to do the same things that Scorpion is trying to achieve, as Hervé has explained. So our core is a digital transformation. But right now we are under resource pressure, and we are having to look at how our journey, particularly in the shipping that we have available as we build new ships, how we plan that in detail. And we will be taking some risk in the near term to get to our concept position as soon as we can. So a well thought through concept that we're living right now in the Northern Theatre, but we're managing that journey through the usual resource constraints that all our nations have to face. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mark. Major General Pierre, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much, sir. It was a pleasure and honor to speak about the brigade. I had the opportunity to be the commander during 2 years. Now it's the moment to speak about the global picture and the global posture. What seems relevant to make the connection between the first intervention and this one is to perhaps for a first remark is coming back to history and to notice that the amphibious force in France is a part of Navy and part of Army, and that the brigade are brigade from the army. So it is coming from history. We used to be part of Navy until the end of the 19th century, and then we turn into a colonial army. That is to say that we receive different missions, and after the Algerian War, we took back this name of Infanterie de Marine, Troupes de Marine, but we stayed in the army system. So it is to say that in the global posture, from my perspective, at my level, Navy is structured by strategic deterrence. It is really the aim of the French Navy, and in a certain way, also the reason why the Air Force is structured as it is. So for Navy and Air Force, really the French strategic posture is the reason why they are organized as they are. On the other side, the army is turning from an expeditionary format, an expeditionary aim, to a divisional system ready to fight the big one and really to be committed into high-intensity air-land battle warfare. So we've got these two main center of gravity, one for Navy and one for Army. And where is Amphibious? From my point of view, Amphibious is the best of both. It is what I try to describe during my briefing. It is to say that nobody is fully amphibious, but both or all services are part of amphibious doctrine and amphibious action. And the main point is really the coherence of all these mobile aspects of amphibious assault. The fact is, from our perspective, we try not to focus excessively on agility, as I tried to describe it, to say that it is not only, and we turn from expeditionary missions into other sort of missions, and we have to maintain the large spectrum of capabilities, going from intervention in overseas French departments, territories, because of natural disaster like in Mayotte, for example, to non-permissive entrance to a big theater of operation, having this ability perhaps not to face the enemy's center of gravity in the main effort, but trying to find peripheral entrances using the amphibious force. But this is to say that we need in this amphibious force as a coherence to be coherent with the naval system, so with the deep navy, and to be coherent with the main body of the army that is going to work in a large scale land battle operation for a long time. It is why the brigade I had the opportunity to command could be both dedicated to amphibious operation or to be embedded into a division, an army division, and that is to say that currently army is trying to rebuild, to be clear, all the divisional system, that is to say the deep, so RT, deep RT, and the rear with all the logistical mobility and the strategic mobility we need to be committed in this kind of operations. So my point of view and the French posture is not to be focusing on amphibious operation, as I said before, but to have the best of both systems, to be able to have a coherence between action from sea to the air-land battle, and this is possible only if you take in this large spectrum of mission the one that could be the most difficult. This is only possible in the framework of NATO with allies. We don't have enough math to be able to intervene in this kind of situations alone. But, and this is one point I really wanted to focus, apart from concentration and dissemination. The other point is that we probably need in the amphibious world to maintain certain levels of forces, not only agile, not only mass, but to have certain levels of forces that are dedicated to different kind of missions with separate skills and not trying to skill excessively every forces for everything. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Herbert. Brigadier General Murmur, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Yeah, I realized during the Congress that in my brief I started with the slide why, as a Dutch Marine Corps, we're transitioning to an advanced amphibious force. Is that I forgot to mention, it's a historical Congress, but I forgot to mention our own history. So where are we coming from as a Dutch Marine Corps? Because it also shapes the way how we look at the world and how we look at conflict and how we look at the utility of amphibious forces. And we were founded in 1665 by the famous Admiral Michiel de Ruyter because he saw the need for naval infantry. So that's our basis. We started operating from ships as light naval infantry, and we basically did that throughout our 360 years of history. And we've always operated as a light force, preferably in terrain that is hardly not easy accessible. Mountainous terrain, the Arctic, difficult terrain, so you don't need a lot of mobility, but you maneuver as a light force. So with this change in the other factors that I described, the changing geopolitical situation, new technology, we saw this gap for these advanced forces that we no longer had because our special forces are no longer doing the advanced force of an amphibious operation. So coming from that light infantry background with limited mobility and a limited sized Marine Corps, we're only a small Marine Corps, it was an obvious way for us to go towards that advanced amphibious force. And also from our history, we never focused on defending the Netherlands. We always focused on defending the Netherlands' interests. So we were always overseas as a maritime force, together with the Navy, always overseas. So also now in this new world, we're not looking at so much as defending the Netherlands. We're hoping there's enough buffers within the NATO partnership around the Netherlands to make sure they never reach the Netherlands. So we always have an expeditionary focus as an outside force going in. So that's the main reason why we do the transition that we do. And then looking at the influence of technology in current conflict, and that's what we see in Ukraine, and we do not need to take Ukraine as the way ahead because we don't want to end up in a First World War trench warfare conflict. We need to prevent that. But what we see is that you cannot hide anymore. You're always seen. Even as a naval force at sea, you're seen from space, so you're always visible, and it's hard to achieve, as Mark said, to achieve surprise or create deception. So you need to look at a different way to achieve protection of the force. And the protection of the force is, in our case, not putting armor around it and making it heavy with a large logistic or heavy logistic train. So we need to look at a light force, and also you need to be invisible in the electromagnetic spectrum. So that also drives a new way of operating. We're used to 25 years of always having your radio equipment switched on. Maybe now we need to operate with radios off and utilize mission command and send small teams ahead. And they need to have situational awareness in the electromagnetic spectrum to decide when they can hide in the noise, other activity in the electromagnetic spectrum, or when they can transmit their radios. So we're looking at a different way to provide force protection by having those smaller teams and having mobility and being less of a target to the enemy capabilities. And I think that case together, because we rely heavily on the Navy. Without the Navy, we do not have logistics, we do not have fires, and we do not have back reach for communication. So we invest heavy in the Navy Marine Corps team. And so the future littoral operating concept that I described, which is the basis for our way ahead, is a joint combined concept where we look how we do that together with our own Navy, but also as part of a larger coalition, because as it was stated, we cannot do this, the next fight alone. We have to do that in a coalition. And making sure we use that strategic utility of the amphibious force. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ivo. And finally, Rear Admiral Gracioso, please.
Thank you very much. Sobre todo, agradecer la Armada y el Instituto Nacional de Cultura Naval para haber organizado en esta manera muy sencilla, mas muy fuerte para esta iniciativa que va a dar a todo el ambiente anfibio algo que tenía ser siempre como pilar de la alianza, también porque se va a hablar más de fuerza anfibia también en la alianza, en el MARCOM y todo eso. So, to give to you my support to this conference, I think that I told you, my captain told us that the Italian Navy have the wider Mediterranean as the main attention at this time. The wider Mediterranean, why the wider Mediterranean? Because in the wider Mediterranean we have our national interests as recursos, as primary recursos, energetic recursos, and also because in the wider Mediterranean we have some point that the NATO give us as main pillars, like the High North, where in the future maybe the itinerary, the route of the High North will be one of the main objective of the alliance. So in this wider Mediterranean, we concentrate our scheme maneuver for our fleet. So amphibious forces will be created and will be developed in order to support the scheme of maneuver the fleet. The amphibious force are the arm of the fleet. So they have to be employed in particular choke point in order to expand the space of maneuver that will be the sea. And in the future, the sea will be one of the main space of maneuver for all armed forces. And also, our chief of the Navy gave us as main pillars the cooperation in the Mediterranean. So what we have to do is cooperate with other nations, with other countries, because only if we have the cooperation, we will have the strategic advantages for the nation. So what we are doing is response to the NATO force model for the regional plan Southeast for the Mediterranean, where we are involved very much, and we have the meeting with JFC Naples in order to know how we have to employ the amphibious forces in support of the regional plan. And also, as we told during the presentation, Italian Navy is going to develop the concept of the carrier strike group, and we start last year with the deployment of the carrier strike group in Indo-Pacific with the F-35 on board. And when we will have the amphibious task group concept with this carrier strike group concept together, we will going to exploit and to develop the expeditionary strike group that give to the alliance. I think one other option to be employed in the future. And I think that all our structure, all our organization are going to be reviewed in base of this. So the new ships that we will have, the new air assets that we will have, are concentrated in order to be a part of the skiff maneuver of the fleet, and the amphibious forces are developing to be a part of this. So the new LHD that will have this is a Trieste ship that will we test during the last exercise Mare Aperto last week. I think it is going to be a platform for the amphibious forces to launch F-35 in order to support the amphibious forces before to come ashore and when it will be ashore. Also, if we need air assets connector, and maybe I want to answer to the general that in the previous part asked for how we can have the air assets for the future and so in this big platform, I think that the big platform had to be 25, 30 miles, 50 miles from the sea, away from the sea. So we have to employ, we have to have in our amphibious forces big and strong air assets as helicopters, but also attack helicopters. And we have a joint in Italy. We have a joint capabilities with the army, with the attack helicopter Mangusta. So we are going to have from this platform that have to stay far from the coast, air assets in order to deploy in one wave, one company ashore. So this is how we are going to apply in the future our amphibious forces, and think that we have to remain also in the NATO requirement that is for us is a battle group size and for the future for 1,050 Marines. So we need a platform in order to transport and to land this kind of requirements that we have from the NATO.
Thank you very much, Max. Okay, let's go further in this round table, and after this initial round, which has allowed us to highlight the main idea behind the position of each country, I think it will be interesting to try to visualize how each posture influences the configuration and means within the future amphibious force projected by each one of our countries. To this end, taking into account, even if we are from the landing force, all of us, but taking into account the three essential pillars of any amphibious force, that are the amphibious ships, the landing force, and the naval aviation, I ask each authority to outline what is its country's force objective in the medium or long term for those three pillars. If you agree, we will now follow the reverse turn of speech. So, Rear Admiral Gracioso, it's your turn.
Yes, maybe I have already answered to this because in our future, yes, in our future, we are going to develop the connectors in order to stay very far from the coast. So our goal is put on board of the ships, the amphibious ships, one battle groups. Sometimes we have the cooperation with USAR, with Spain in the CF in the CF cooperation. So maybe we can also combine these forces in order to give to the alliance a battle group, a CF battle group, where was also in the past. And the F-35, I think that will be one of the main support that we will have inside the amphibious forces, because we develop also with the JTAC and the F-35 the digital CAS, and the digital CAS, all digital will be the future. Digital CAS, digital naval gunfire, digital fire support with Mortons, and so I think that will be the future. So we are going, we stay with the technology, and we are going to participate in many environments like Bold Quest in USA, in order to develop this kind of method that will be also the future, because digital give us the possibility to change the information very fastly and without problems. And for the amphibious ships in the future, from 2030, we will have the new LPD. At this time, this is LPX, but we are going to develop this that will be with the DAC, and also this ship will have connectors in order to launch the amphibious forces far from the coast. So I think that all what the presentation that give us Captain Turmello give us all future of our Navy in order to support it, to develop the amphibious in this concept. And as a Spanish Navy, our goal is also to maintain as the forces to do an amphibious assault. This is one of the main pillars that we have. Also, if we are ready to employ our little units in raids and in little scale of operations.
Thank you very much. Brigadier General Merman, please.
In addition, I will mention also our amphibious ships and landing craft, but what is crucial for us as a light force is that we rely on fires from the sea. So luckily, as with the additional budget for the Netherlands, we are able as a Navy also to invest in those capabilities. So we just did a test launch with a Tomahawk missile on the US East Coast. So within the next couple of years, we'll have Tomahawk missiles as an operational strategic weapon system within our Navy that we can utilize, and all our frigates will be equipped with a new gun with volcano precision-guided munitions with a longer reach, but especially important precision-guided munition to also support operations ashore. And for the Marine Corps itself, we invested in new weapon systems, loitering munition, medium range, long range loitering munition, long range that we can also launch from the sea to have an effect on land. And for instance, our heaviest fire support asset we get back to the Marine Corps is the mortar 120mm, but not in the old way where you need 6 guns to create an effect. We want to have it vehicle mounted, so it's mobile, and we only use it with precision-guided munition, either GPS or laser-guided. So it is a single gun concept, and you can have an effect on target with 1 round and then move again. So a different approach with all the equipment. And looking at operations in the cyber realm and in the electromagnetic spectrum, we have cyber teams within our battalions after the transition. So we did not decide to centralize those at a higher level, but we have small teams with equipment that can have an effect. Either they can build situational awareness in the electromagnetic spectrum or create an effect in the spectrum. And we have that at a lower tactical level. Then looking at the amphibious capabilities, at this time we have 2 large LPDs, one which is also suited to provide a command and control platform for a combined joint staff. But in the future, we're looking to replace those two with 6 smaller amphibs. The real challenge is now to actually make them smaller because of new shipbuilding standards, and so we want to go to smaller amphibs to make them also less vulnerable, but that's difficult. But we move to 6 amphibs that are able to project our force. We're replacing all our landing craft, and we'll go to faster, smaller landing craft that can either move at a high speed and cross a larger distance. But they're not just doing ship-to-objective maneuver. It might as well be that the landing crafts stay in the littorals to support the smaller teams on land, either with logistic resupply or with fires or with situational awareness. So it's not a given. That's why in the morning on your question I said it all depends. That they go back to the ship because they're not only there for ship-to-objective maneuver, but also to support littoral operations. And then aviation-wise, we, as the Netherlands Navy, part of a joint helicopter command, we have the NH-90 helicopter in 2 roles. So part of the fleet is in the anti-submarine role, and part of the NH-90 we use as an amphibious transport helicopter. So we have a dedicated 8 at this moment, and we'll grow with an additional 4 helicopters in an amphibious transport role for naval operations. And then looking ahead, this is all funded, so the good thing is we have budget for this, and it's all in the acquisition process. And we're now also looking ahead of that, maybe moving to 3% of the budget, and looking at other capabilities. For instance, if we want to do sea denial in the Caribbean, we need different weapon systems like the NATO strike missile or other air defense asset to provide sea denial in that theater. So we're also developing that CONOPS at this moment.
Thank you. Please, Major General.
Thank you very much. I didn't say during the first round that the brigade strength is 8,000. So it is to say that we used to be deployed as a battalion size level, and we have to be at the brigade size level now. So we've got 1 French Marine Brigade, 9 BIBA, which is, as I said, 8,000 strengths. But we've got another brigade that has this amphibious capability, that is the French Royal Legion Brigade. So we've got 2 brigades that are able to be used as amphibious forces. Within this brigade, I describe the commando force because we try to develop this aspect of agility. I didn't say that we don't need agility. I said we need agility, but we need to keep something else. So we developed this marine recon because they have to take the missions that used to be the missions of the South, but they are not anymore, so they are our proper missions. So I had about 1 platoon per battalion that were part of this commando unit, and we are able to put together all these platoons to create a commando force, and this commando force is equipped with very technological, the state-of-the-art technology. But we need other parts that are not in this force, and so I described this morning that on the other side we've got the Scorpion system that is the main body of the battle system, and it is common to army. It is to say that the other brigades in the army, they are using a Scorpion system that gives all these units to be connected on the battlefield when they are together, even those who are coming from the sea. And in between the commando force and the Scorpion system, we are currently acquiring amphibious assault vehicles that miss us at that moment. So we will have all the span of equipments at for the land forces, with this idea that we have to be deployed from the battalion size to the brigade size. The environment is the environment I described before, with a Navy structure by the strategic deterrence, but we've got 3 LHD, and we are transforming all the landing craft into equipments that are faster for the connection between the shore and the boat. We've got naval aviation, of course, air aviation supporting the forces on the shore, but we've got also a brigade of army aviation that is qualified for amphibious operation. That is to say, when we embark a ship, when a French marine battalion is embarking a ship, is coming with a squadron from army aviation aboard the ship. So perhaps we'll have the opportunity to speak about techniques or so. I don't know
if we have time enough.
Yes.
Thank you, Hervé. Please, Major General Totem.
Thank you. So our force implications really start with the headline that we are both, we're no longer talking about from sea to land, we are talking about at sea and at land. And we see amphibious forces having to do their part to establish sea control as much as benefit from sea control to launch an assault. So that's defining how we construct our force. At the shipping level, we have the multi-role strike ship that is our new capital ship program. That aims to achieve 4 capability outcomes. First, the projection of the amphibious force. Second is medical support. Third is the strike capability, so we will want to use launch precision strike from the MRSS. And finally, autonomous mine hunting and clearing will go from those ships. Our requirement is 8, we're committed to 6 at the minute, so that defines our shipping balance. And obviously, as we design, we go through the tension of volume and size in a small number of platforms against the need for dispersal in small vessels. However, numerous small vessels drive up cost and also workforce demands, which we have to suppress. In the landing force itself, when we talk about the landing craft, the connectors, we're thinking about 4 things when we do that. The first is achieving distance. So we've all talked about that distance, and these are 4 Ds. But distance is not to defeat the engagement zone. You can't do that. But we need to achieve that range to give the task group opportunities to maneuver to points of projection, as much as create a single line to a target. The next is the deception. We have to be able to launch deception operations. In conjunction with that, then, decoying. We will have to decoy as we conduct an assault. And finally, denial. We will have to deny the adversary the ability to target us through jamming. So 4 Ds defines our connectors. In the actual land force, we have, everybody's talked about it, increase our precision and our organic precision at the expense of non-precise mass for our force. We have to tackle, and we're working really hard to tackle, the logistic problem, and therefore we view every element that we put ashore has to add operational value and has to have a combined arms impact, because that justifies the logistic tail that comes. On C2, we have merged Caitiff and Cliff, and we recognise that is now a single effort, continuous from sea to land, and it's under a single commander. We achieve unity of command from the sea base to the shore. It's complex in the staff, but we've made that move, and we've now got a fully merged staff. For aviation, we have the Merlin and Wildcat helicopters at the moment, but the Navy's future aviation vision is driving to autonomy. And as much autonomy as we can get in the aviation force and in the surface connector force will define our headmark. And with that autonomy comes more volume, as we can drive volume of aviation assets and therefore strike, deceive, deny, decoy assets into the force projection.
Thank you, Mark. It's my turn, and I'm in a hurry, I know. As I said before, the Armada's objective is to be able to land and up to brigade level landing force. However, we also consider the possibility of simultaneously employing up to 3 reinforced battalion efforts, conducting distributed operations in widely separated geographical areas, so that the brigade should include up to 4 battalion-size maneuver elements to act the 4th one as the reserve. The brigade will have a robust and long-range command and control system that will allow a great flow of data exchange through a combat cloud based on 5G technology, low-orbit satellite systems, among others. It will also be necessary to provide fire support with extended range and accurate precision weapons to allow mutual support between efforts, as well as landing means to execute the ship-to-shore movement or ship-to-objective maneuver at faster speed and longer ranges. In the event of facing an A2AD bubble, it will be necessary to launch the first actions more than some 100 kilometers far from the coastline, and the precursors actions of the amphibious force itself at least from 100 kilometers far from the coastline. So the employment of helicopters, transport and attack helicopters will be essential. The surface means for this movement from the ships to shore will have to be based on LCAC assets, landing craft air cushion, and for doing that, what we consider necessary of the amphibious ships will be at a minimum of 3 LHD, LHA type vessels, and at least 1 LPD type vessel. Besides, to launch the amphibious combat vehicles in motion and at an acceptable distance from the coastline or from the beach, we will be needed amphibious ships smaller in size and higher speed, able to get much closer to the coastline. Another essential element of our future amphibious force will be the unmanned vehicles covering the air, surface, and submarine domains. And finally, the force will require embarked fixed aviation consisting of state-of-the-art aircrafts complemented by swarms of drones. So here I conclude my last intervention. The A2AD bubbles are a very hard adversary, but time is even harder. So we have to conclude here the roundtable. I want to thank all my mates on this scenario. It has been a pleasure and an honor to share this scenario with you. And of course, thanks all the audience for your attention. And we all hope it has been an interesting roundtable for you. Thank you very much.
En estos momentos el almirante general, jefe del Estado Mayor de la Armada, Antonio Piñeiro, cerrará el Congreso. Almirante.
Excelentísimas y ilustrísimas autoridades civiles y militares, señores y señores, muy buenas tardes ya. Bueno, durante estos días hemos tenido la oportunidad de compartir aquí conocimientos experiencias y perspectivas que nos han permitido profundizar en una de las áreas más fascinantes y cruciales de la historia naval, las operaciones anfibias, o lo que es lo mismo, la capacidad de proyectar el poder naval sobre tierra. Esta es una de las características más importantes y decisivas para una marina de guerra. Otorga la capacidad de influir en los acontecimientos en tierra y permite desempeñar un papel determinante en las operaciones conjuntas, aprovechando la libertad de acción que proporciona la mar. Las operaciones anfibias ofrecen a una marina de guerra la posibilidad de llevar a cabo intervenciones militares rápidas y decisivas, sin la necesidad de depender de bases terrestres cercanas. Esto es posible a dos de las principales características que tiene la fuerza naval: su capacidad expedicionaria y su autonomía logística. Ambas permiten desplegar y operar en cualquier parte del mundo, lo que puede prevenir a potenciales adversarios de emprender acciones hostiles. Desde una perspectiva política, se puede decir que esta capacidad otorga a las naciones que disponen de ella una valiosa herramienta estratégica en términos de disuasión, lo que refuerza la postura defensiva y ofensiva de una nación. La proyección del poder naval sobre tierra es crucial para garantizar la seguridad nacional. En un mundo donde las amenazas son cada vez más impredecibles, contar con una marina de guerra capaz de actuar en tierra ofrece un valioso recurso para defender los intereses nacionales, tanto en territorio nacional como en regiones de interés, o asistir a los aliados en el marco de las organizaciones internacionales de seguridad y defensa. A lo largo de diferentes sesiones hemos explorado este tipo de operaciones en un amplio abanico temporal desde la antigüedad hasta el siglo XX, contando con la participación de académicos de renombre y militares con dilatada experiencia en la materia, que han ofrecido diferentes enfoques y enriquecido notablemente el contenido del Congreso. La profundidad de los coloquios, el intercambio de ideas y la colaboración interdisciplinar han sido fundamentales para ampliar nuestro entendimiento y visibilidad sobre las operaciones anfibias, no solo como un campo de estudio histórico, sino también como un elemento esencial de la estrategia militar moderna. En este contexto histórico me gustaría, y precisamente por estar aquí en Madrid, en España, digo que me gustaría destacar el desembarco de Alhucemas, de que el próximo mes de septiembre se cumplen 100 años. Alhucemas fue una operación anfibia desempeñada en el contexto de la Guerra del Rif en el norte de África entre España y posteriormente Francia y las cabilas rifeñas lideradas por la doctrine. Aquí, en Alhucemas, fue la primera vez que se utilizó un desembarco anfibio con apoyo aéreo coordinado, con fuerzas españolas y también francesas. Sirvió de modelo táctico para operaciones futuras, incluyendo el desembarco de Normandía 20 años más tarde. Y fue muy exitosa, pues marcó el principio del fin del movimiento independentista rifeño, al tomar una posición clave para el posterior desarrollo de la campaña. Hoy, al finalizar este primer Congreso de Historia Naval, brillantemente organizado, tengo que decir, por el Instituto de Historia y Cultura Naval y la Escuela de Guerra Naval, nos llevamos no solo una mayor comprensión de los complejos desafíos que las operaciones anfibias representan, sino también un renovado sentido de respeto y admiración por aquellos que a lo largo de la historia han entregado su vida a estas arriesgadas y decisivas campañas. Cada una de estas intervenciones ha dejado lecciones valiosas sobre logística, liderazgo, coordinación de medios, flexibilidad y adaptabilidad, así como sobre la importancia de la preparación, la inteligencia y la comprensión del escenario y del terreno, tanto físico como político. Las lecciones del pasado siguen vigentes y nos brindan las herramientas necesarias para enfrentar los desafíos del presente y del futuro. Un futuro que en términos y conceptos como interoperabilidad, operaciones distribuidas, operaciones más allá del horizonte, serán claves en los diseños de las futuras fuerzas de proyección. Quiero expresar, ya para finalizar, mi más sincero agradecimiento a todos los conferenciantes por su dedicación y profesionalidad. Las investigaciones y ponencias han sido la piedra angular de este congreso. Quiero agradecer igualmente a cada uno de los asistentes su entusiasmo, interés y compromiso con la preservación de nuestra rica historia naval. Me gustaría hacer una mención especial al CEMA de Portugal por su esfuerzo en asistir a la clausura de este congreso, así como a los componentes de la última mesa redonda con la que hemos cerrado este último día. Su presencia hoy aquí lo enriquece de forma notable. Estoy seguro de que este no solo ha sido un escenario de aprendizaje, sino también una plataforma para fortalecer la colaboración entre nuestras distintas naciones y disciplinas que nos unen a través del mar. Les invito a continuar este trabajo de reflexión y análisis y a seguir investigando y a transmitir lo aprendido. Muchísimas gracias.
Muchas gracias a todos. Queda clausurado el Congreso de Operaciones Anfibias pasado y futuro. Gracias.